right, I guess I'm live. I didn't know I was live. I was still setting up. So you caught me in my own personal green room, I guess. Well, Ham's going to come on very soon. Probably as soon as he sees this. And then we'll talk about, should we do a drinking game? How many times will he say, buy the dip, sell the rip? How many times will he say, if they thought they could win, they'd let it go up? How many times will he say, the most powerful man in the world? You get the idea. It's coming. It's coming to you shortly. Shortly, it's coming. Everything's down on the screen, so I'm not going to bore you with that. Let me just see how the market's doing. The Dow is down 382. NASDAQ, I guess, is up flat. S&P is down 28. And there you go. You don't have enough alcohol. Yeah, you could say how many times he says good luck. Good luck. I have a certain set of skills. I will find you, and I will kill you. Good luck. Hey, Narad. Hey, the one. Hey, CJ Yukon. Lucid Heart. T-Rex. L Dude. How? How's that movie? How? With Space Odyssey. Eric. Yeah, lucky boy. He's asleep. He's asleep. He had a very busy 1.5 block walk this morning. Hey, Sideshow. Charlie Mack, listen. Oktoberfest. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I went to the Oktoberfest once. Long time ago. In Germany, of course. And I guess it's everywhere. I don't know anything about it. Yeah, that could be. He could say that. Pickleball. AAP. It's raining down there? Wow. Well, the interesting thing is I think everything's going to be volatile, but I don't think I do think you have a good concept. Hey, Sean, any thoughts to share with us on what's going with GTII recent court order to appoint a receivership? Sure. Let me just go to the bottom. Ham will say, listen to Richard. Aaron, I'm not a big fan of how the NRA has gotten everyone to assume that the Second Amendment basically means we all just can have as many guns as we want. We all have a right to it. The Second Amendment was a compromise. It was not exactly written clearly. because of that compromise. It could have used a comma or two and a little bit more specificity. But I think it's very hard to argue against the point that it was written for a militia. It was written for states to have, and individuals to have power against a central king, a central government. I don't know. I have complicated views on it now. I don't see why a 14-year-old kid should have a automatic rifle when he can't even, he can't process his emotions. I do think that people should have to pass tests with guns, and I don't have a problem with guns being registered if they're all of it. I lived in the UK. If you had a long gun, you had to have a license, and I don't think pistols were allowed at all. But look, we do it for automobiles, we can do it for guns. And anyway, and I don't think everyone should have a right to it. I don't have problems with almost everyone on here, except the shorts, owning guns. And it's a losing issue because everyone believes that's what the Second Amendment says. It's not what it says. But I live in an area where there's, thank God, there was a shooting at a few blocks up about 3 months ago, but there aren't a lot of shootings now, but there could be. So anyway, I don't like our current gun system. I'm not trying to provoke an argument though. Yeah, on GTII, I listened to Richard's, well, 2 calls over the weekend, one with JR, and he looks like Big JR, but I guess that's not Big JR. My number one thought is when you're in receivership, you're in a courtroom and the judge cannot do almost anything she wants to. It's within law, but it changes the laws of physics, basically. And that's one thought. 2, I think if you guys and me are expecting, if we are expecting this to be easy, we might be disappointed. We might be pleased, but I think Lou Rubari was put into the situation from the jump to assist in the hiding of a massive short position and to make sure that no surprise came to make that stock price go up to cause trouble for the people that I think put him there, the shorts. Now, am I right? I don't know, but that's my working theory. It's opinion. Everything I say on here is opinion. Why else would a guy with his resume join a POS company? Okay. So my point is, I think there'll be countersuits, delays, time, and all that. The third thing is in terms of, I've heard from Ham here live, and I know some of the people involved. I know there's deals ready to go into the company and some money to back it up. But there's a lot of extra stock. So that has to be worked out. And then the short position, there's no guarantee that large short position is going to be allowed out of the courtroom. I don't know. The other side, the bad guys, want bankruptcy. They want it flat. They can book their profits. Anyway, I don't know what number I'm on. Let me say I'm on the fifth thing. I think that some of the other things that have been filed are a massive threat to Lou and Rubari and to David Reichman and the rest of the board's ability to walk around and breathe free air. So I think they're going to fight back. So we'll see. We'll see. I think, as I've said before, you should write in your mind. You should write off GTII. I wouldn't be trying to buy it to trade it. They've gotten it into this behind the curtain nightmare. You don't know what the bid and the asks are. If you want to try to accumulate some because you feel confident they're going to get through receivership, they're going to have a large short position, and they're going to be able to bring in companies which benefit shareholders, and that everyone involved is looking out for shareholders. Lou Rubari has a contract that he gets $20 million if he gets the stock to 2. Why should he get that? Why should he get that? You know? Anyway, I don't think it's going to be an easy thing. I think it'll be fairly simple to get the company trading again, but I bet it'll cost $250,000 to do so, and so that has to come from somewhere, and I'm just guessing, but it'll probably cost that much at least. You need an audit and you need to file it. Lawyers probably. There's no magic wand here. The bad guys have designed and adapted to a system which allows them to crush the market cap of any stock in the over-the-counter markets and the NASDAQ markets under the threshold of institutional buying, $1 billion, $2 billion, under $5, under $7. They can crush them, and they can steal that capital. And Ann Wagner doesn't care. Adina Friedman doesn't care. Robert Cook doesn't care. Gensler doesn't care. Journalists don't care. Nobody cares. And I just don't think it's going to be as simple as a receiver. To me, Sean, receivership, I'm not a lawyer. And I tried to ask a couple wise-ass questions on, when typing it in. I didn't hear the answers. But I think receivership's essentially bankruptcy. So I'm not overly optimistic, and I think there'll be time. But we might be surprised. I do think that the receiver who has been selected is righteously upset that what he sees with GTII is there were a lot of deals done that never came to fruition, but as soon as they were announced, the insiders started selling. The Reichmans, the charity, those kind of things. So anyway, I don't think we're at the end of the road yet. I could be wrong, and I stand ready to change my views. You'll have time, though. You'll have time to act, I believe. What you can do now, if you have a position, I think there's better places to put your money. No one wants to do it, but I think logic, you can double, triple, quadruple, quintuple your money over the next 30 days, 45 days. We've heard it before. I know you've heard it before. I can't predict the timing or when, but that's what I think. There's a couple of stocks Ham talks about. So I think there's places you can go to try to make money. But if you buy GTII now at 7 or 6 or 3, it could end up being 0 if this is converted to a bankruptcy. So I don't like the risk reward of buying unless you're accumulating for the long term and you know that you're throwing your money away right now. Practically, and no one wanted to listen to me for the last year, over a year I've been saying it, you can't really sell the stock now. So there's nothing to do. But toward the end of the year, you can look up an accountant or just do your own research. But I'm not an accountant. I can't give accounting advice. But what I would do, and what I may well do, is write it off. Write it down to 0. And then that gives me a tax loss for this year and in the future. Then the limitations, there's 3 bad things. One, well, it's not bad. Just 3 facts. There's 3 facts if I do that. One, my new cost basis would be 0, so I'd have to pay capital gains off of 0. 2, my new clock would start clicking on the stock after I wrote it off. Now, I'm not clear if I believe that would be, your time frame would be the day afterward, but that's something to check with an accountant. But if you're worried about short-term gains versus long-term gains, that's something to take into account. Of course, under Kamala, who I think will be our next president, short-term gains are going to be taxed as long-term gains. But at least we will not see a lot of unhinged tweets. For me, I'd much rather pay 50% on my long-term gains than ever have to listen or read a tweet from an orange, unhinged, misogynist, white supremacist, racist president. I'd much rather have a dunderhead who doesn't know what she's speaking about, who got there by spreading her legs. I would much rather that. But anyway, the third thing about GTII is no, I guess those are the only two things that really matter. You would start your short-term, long-term clock again, and your new cost basis would be 0. You can, we don't know, but you could, if things get good again, you can always go in and buy. But I wouldn't buy anything until you know what the bid and the ask is. And you might say, well, we could buy it here at a penny, and then by the time they have a bid and ask, it could be 10 cents, 12 cents. Yes, that's true. But at least you know that you can get out. You buy it at 12, sell it at 10. Right now, if you buy it at 5, you may never get out. So it takes one of the risks off the table. But the situation with GTII is not pretty. I think Reichman's going to fight, as he has for the last year. I think he has a serious problem on his hands. And his lawyers are going to say, no, you can't settle. We have to get some of these things dismissed off your record. And the good guys' side, if you want to call it that, are going to say, no, we're not going to agree to that. So I think there'll be more delays. It'll be another 6 months, 9 months. But Sean, I'm totally ready to be proven wrong. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope it's much, much quicker than that. But the key is you can, today is September, you can have sort of a free look for September, October, November, most of December. And worst case, you can write that stock off at the end of the year. If you took a $10,000 loss and you had a gain somewhere else of $10,000 at a 35, and assume it's a long term. Well, no, assume it's a short term gain. You save 50%, that's $5,000. If you owned, I don't know, 10,000 shares of GTII, that's 50 cents a share that you get back in the benefit of the tax loss. So it's awful. But if you have other winners, and I'm sure you do or will, there is this benefit from the tax loss if you write it off. If you don't have gains and you took a $10,000 loss, you can write off $3,000 against your income a year. This year, next year, the following year, and then $1,000 the year after that. They haven't increased that deduction. It's always $3,000. But let's say your tax bracket is 32%, state is 8%, so it's 40% total. To reduce your income by $3,000, it's not a lot, but it saves $1,200. If it were 10,000 shares of GTII that you owned, that you wrote off, that's 12 cents a share this year. It'll be 12 cents next year and 12 cents the year after that. So it's not ideal at all. But it's time to look at this as a professional would and say, all right, I have a loss, but here's the benefit I can get out of that tax loss. It's not ideal, but it's there. And it's real. It's real money. Money you don't pay to the IRS goes in your pocket. Anyway, those are my comments on that. Let me see what Ham says. I've been keeping my eyes on Japan, but I don't know what I'm looking for, frankly. I don't think the carry trade is going to be a shock to the system. I think there's been plenty of time for anybody in trouble to get out of that. But I did notice they tried to raise rates and it was a disaster. So to me, you're going to see much lower yen, much lower, maybe not much lower, but lower rates in Japan. And so I don't think that's particularly good. Japan has no energy domestically, and there was a massive earthquake on the western side of Japan about 5 months ago. You don't read about it. The ground went up and down 80 feet right underneath nuclear reactors. You don't hear a thing about it. My guess is that the west side of Japan, there's been meltdowns and radioactive poisoning of the sea, just like at Fukushima Daiichi. So my opinion of Japan, just to cut to the chase, is that sometime in your lifetime, Dominic, Tokyo will be evacuated. I think the Pacific Ocean has been poisoned beyond rescue. And none of us should be eating fish out of the North Pacific. So I think Japan has a hard time ahead, and it's unfair. I don't know, but they bought heavily into nuclear reactors. That's how I see it. And then thirdly, they have an aging population problem, much like we do. The baby boomers came through life and made everything they touched more expensive. Well, baby boomers now here in the United States are going to make medicine more expensive, retirement, homes by the beach, cruises, everything retired people do it's going to become extraordinarily expensive. And but in Japan, the aging population, it's the same problem we have, which is there's not going to be enough workers to support the retirees.
Battery 40%. Connected to Bill's iPhone.
And then you put in geopolitical risk, and I don't know what happens there. So I don't know what I'm looking for with Japan, but I see a pretty grim future for Japan.
Hello.
I didn't see that you were calling. I had my phone here, so.
No problem. I was calling.
All right, you're live for everybody.
All right. I was just, I'm hearing that in GDC that Fidelity has a big problem when it fails to deliver. They're short. I don't know who's, maybe someone selling through Fidelity, but that's what I heard.
So the stock goes down a point.
Well, they needed to knock it down. That's usual for the course. One of my friends bought 15,000. Another guy bought 18. You know, everyone's been adding it to buying it back around the below $6 is really where they've been doing it. And they all sold it 9 to 11 something. So they're, you know, this is this is trading for people that have made a lot of profit already. This is how you do it, and you get to see if who's going to win this battle. That's how it goes. But there's a lot of stuff going on. You know, Fidelity sometimes, let's say it's Fidelity with the problem, they can give the order to JP Morgan, and JP Morgan could be out there trying to cover for them. They don't, people like, the big players don't like to leave a trail where it's coming from, so they kind of, you know, shake it up. So Fidelity short, they may give the order to Morgan Stanley, you know, because everyone sees Fidelity buying it. You know, not us, but bigger players can see Fidelity out there trying to cover, and they will run in front of them. So they try to give it to someone else. That's common. I used to do big short sales, and I know people that were doing that. They would give Goldman Sachs on a stock on the New York Stock Exchange. They would give Goldman Sachs $200,000-300,000 to buy $35 and make them show the bid at $35. And all of a sudden, everybody go running in front of the $35 buyer at $300,000, taking it at 35 and a quarter, 35 and a half, 35.75, $36. The stock would start to run because everyone thinks Goldman Sachs is the big buyer. Meanwhile, people I know were shorting it. That was just a trick to get people to buy it. So you got to be aware of all these type of tricks that these guys try to prove, you know, to move on people. GDC had a complete bear raid this morning, trying to knock it down as fast as they can. And the funny thing is the volume had dried up at $7. There was no big volume. So I don't know why would they let it go higher to bring in buyers? They can't withstand the pressure. That's all it is. So these common attacks, we see them all the time. Just go look at the chart. You can see how many shares they sold, and then it stops. The stock that traded, you know, 100 million shares, trading, 800,000 shares, and, you know, 90% of that was, you know, sold at the market by some short seller trying to knock it down. All right, so this is how you play that game. If you want to buy the dips, sell the rips, that's how you play it. And that's all I have to say about that one. I gave you all the information I heard. I heard Fidelity's got some big problem here. I don't know where, how, what, but that's what we're hearing. I told you Wall Street's a small place, William, right?
Yeah.
Everybody talks and information starts to pop out. So that's how you get it. All right. GTII, again, Richard has been posting stuff about it. Please follow him. Someone decided to sell 1,000 shares of stock down 50% today. Someone needs to sell 1,000 shares of stock at 3 cents. People, if that's not make-believe trading, nothing is. Don't look at it. Let the courts play it out. Follow Richard, and we'll get back on our high horses in time when it's ready to go. DJT, they put out the story that the company, again, that the insiders are going to lock up and they're going to sell the stock. Seeking Alpha put out that story. That's why the stock has been going down. The shorts are trying to drive it lower, make people panic, and trying to get the insiders to dump at the bottom. I told you we heard from Devin Nunes' camp that he wouldn't do anything unless it's above this short squeeze trigger number, which is $54. Based on the attacks that I see now, maybe it's lower to 49. So I doubt that he's going to come out and do anything down here. If DJT and Devin Nunes does do anything to raise money down here, shame on them. And they'll be doing the same thing that GameStop did. I don't believe they will. All right, because they've been, they hired that guy Tom Ronk, and he's advising them, and I doubt that he would go out there and have them sell the stock at the low after finding all the data, screaming about naked shorts. I think that if you wanted to play DJT, now's the time to do it. You can maybe buy some cheap calls. Let's see what the options look out for a second. Oh, you got September 6th calls, right? That's 24 days out. No, September 6th, they expired. Those are the weekly ones. I'm sorry, one day. I don't even know what the 25's going for. If anybody looks at, now I wouldn't buy the 19s for, the September 13s or September 20s. Look at the 25s. Even the 19 and a half for September 20 calls, which is 15 days away, $1.65. You could probably buy the 22 and a half if they're, I don't know what the prices are. But that's where I would look on those things. Of course, if it's going to turn, it's going to turn big, and it's going to turn fast. And we're getting closer to the election. So again, I don't know who's knocked it down. I think that I think it's a perfect trap. If Devin Nunes does not have the insiders sell any of their shares down here, it's a perfect bear trap. These guys sold it down. The selling's been relentless every day. Down, 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 down. And that's DJT. That's Donald Trump, the most powerful man in the world. They're trying to knock down. All right, so I guess, playing it for a rebound, nice way to do it is to take some FU money if you want to play. You buy the 22s, 23s, 24s, all those options. Go out a couple of weeks and buy those. And consider it trash. That's why you're buying them. All right, if you want to buy something that's going to be tradable, you could buy options, the 18s, the 18 and a half, the 19s. Those are closer to the money, but you're going to pay a lot more money for them. All right, remember, this stock was just $50 not too long ago, and they drove it always down here. That's the next president of the United States. That's his company. And I do believe Devin Nunes, I do believe there's an investigation going on there. So again, that's something I would look at. That's a play. What else am I following, William? I forgot. I bought that MLSS at $1.01, and it's holding here. There's rumors of a big contract coming out. They do something with epidurals. For the women, they probably know more about it than we do, but I think it's something they use for them during childbirth, and I guess this is the safest, newest way to do it. I don't know. Take a look, read it, understand it. I was just being told to buy it, and that's what I did. It's funny, the same thing I was being told to buy GDC. Isn't it funny how Wall Street works? When you hear good things, you start to follow people for those reasons. All right, now let's go focus on Finger while we have everybody here. Okay, we're out to 47 days to the election, and 3 more hours will be 46. It just keeps drifting down. I told you I won't reach out to Pat Byrne until around 20 days. And we'll do a nice call then and outline what's going to happen. I'll wait till then. I don't need to do it now. We also have the special dividend, based on filings and things that lawyers that know this stuff. It should be any day we should be hearing something about this thing, with the SEC, what the terms, whatever it may be. But right here, the company's doing a special dividend to expose the shorts. If you just go back and look at Dole, D-O-L-E, Dole Foods, the pineapple company, the story headline is Dole Foods has too many shares. The company went private. The shareholders sued the CEO. The CEO had to pay a special dividend of $2.75 to everyone who owned stock on the closing day that it went private. And there was only 36 million shares in the company. When he had to pay it out, there were 49 million showed up. There were 13 million counterfeit shares in the system. The CEO said, I'm not paying those people. All I know is 36. I'm not paying for 49. All right. So who had to bite the bullet on that? The depository trust. The depository trust is owned by all the brokers. All right. So they had to, we call that like collateral damage. A company got by, they got busted for $100 million, and see you later. No one even looks into it. That's how big their what do you call it? Their what do you call that kind of money? What do you call it? Slush fund is. An error like that. Remember, the company went private, Dole Foods. The CEO said, I'm going to buy this company at $10. And on the closing day, everyone can tender their shares and you would get paid $10. That's it. But there were so many extra shares that when they sued the company, as special dividend was paid, there's that word again, special dividend, 13 million showed up with their statements, and now Wall Street got screwed. Matt Levine, the guy who wrote the story, never did a follow-up on it. In the story, he wrote that the person, the hedge fund that probably sold the 13 million shares is probably out of business, maybe died, something, whatever, he's gone. Think about that. Wall Street let someone sell 13 million shares at $10, $130 million, and no one ever even looked for them. That's how broken the system is. And there's your answer. The system is completely trash. That someone could do that and walk away with all that money and no one even look for them. All right. On top of that, Wall Street took a bullet of $3, paid everybody $3 a share as a dividend, 13 million times, right? That's how broken the system is. The reading is right there. You can go read it. Dole, D-O-L-E, the pineapple company. Dole Foods has too many shares. That's the headline of the story. Go read it. And it gets a little complex because he tries to talk about the DTC and how it happened and all this nonsense. But at the end of the day, the music stops. 36 million shares. You can't have 49. Pat Byrne did a special dividend, 3 to 128. Well documented. That was his final hurrah as the CEO of Overstock. 3 to 128. He slaughtered them. Okay. Patrick Byrne has said he's going to come back in when Trump wins. He'll be as a position in the administration, and all he wants to do is fix stock settlement. Donald Trump said he's going to throw Gary Gensler out on his ass day one. There's your formula for destruction of the shorts. Pat Byrne, Donald Trump, DJT, Devin Nunes, Ryan Cohen, Elon Musk, they all hate the short sellers. And they all want to make this a better place. If we don't fix this now, we're never going to fix it. Everyone on this phone who's losing money, who has kids, grandkids, they're all going to be slaves. You're never going to be able to get and move up the ladder making a few money, to change your life. All right, this is the opportunities in the stock market that will change your life. All right, so again, that's what I see in FingerMotion. Yesterday, people, some gentleman on Twitter, I'm just trying to look and read the story for you, William. Take it easy, William. All right, before I get to that, someone posted a story. The SEC seems to think there is something wrong, deceptive about that. Activist short sellers covering their shorts quickly after publishing their reports, per Bloomberg. It's right here. Go read. No fucking way is that not right. I mean, that is complete fraud. That's what they've been doing. They all done it. From Adam Fronstein bashing biotechs. He's been doing it for years. He's a total scumbag. Through Hindenburg, through Andrew Leff, to Capybara, White Rock Research, whatever that guy's name is. I forgot his name, the guy with the dog. They all do the same thing. They write the stories, the stocks collapse, and then they cover and they run away with their FU money and see you later. The SEC knows what's going on. And if you want to go check Dog Victor Apple, Jim Chanos, the king of the shorts. He was always the best and he was the king. He shorted DaVita, Dog Victor Apple at 58. He put out his fake story that the company was a fraud. Unfortunately, the company was owned by Warren Buffett. I was like, this is going to be some battle. He attacked Warren Buffett. What's going to happen? Stock went from 59 to 53 that day. I assume he covered, right? Because I never heard him speak about it again. And then the stock went to $145. So I think he knew that the company was going to go up, and he wanted to cover his short position. So he came out with his fake report that the company was a fraud. Well documented. It's right there. He put it out. Jim Chanos, he called Dog Victor Apple a fraud. And he called it an insurance scam. I'll make it even worse. He called him a scam, and I said, where's the DOJ? Someone's got to step in here if this is a scam. No one said boo. I even said it back on the day on Twitter that this stock is either going to be a 0 or 125. No one ever said anything. Went to 125. Went higher than 125. Let me just see where it is today. Dog Victor Apple. Yeah, 149 down 2 today. All right, that's how he did that, and all of a sudden Jim Chanos retired. He's nowhere to be found anymore. All right, these guys all know that the heat's coming down on them, and the game is over. The play is to the long side, not the short side, meaning that everyone, all these little creatures that short, that go around trying to short 1,000 shares of stock, and they go on message boards to break your balls. Those guys are all going to be gone. All right, the trade is to the long side, not the short side. These guys are all getting busted, and you know what? They know to stay away. So again, years ago, until last year, everybody was shorting. Now they're reversing it. They're going the opposite way. All right, short squeezes are the best business plans on Wall Street. You can ask the people at GameStop. They had nothing. They made $4 billion. AMC was going bust. They raised all kinds of money, supported the company. It's still around today, all because of a short squeeze. I don't know what KOSS, if they ever did anything, but that stock is still hanging around at $8, $7.50. I don't know how big the short is in here. I don't even know why anybody even follows it, but that's what's going on there. FingerMotion, 230 million shares short, 1,450,000 real shorts. That gets updated on September 11th. Please, shortsqueeze.com. Do your own homework, follow it, learn to follow the bouncing ball. This way, you're not caught off guard by anything. It's right there. All right. I told you about the dividend. We expect a dividend anytime soon. The next thing that I found on Twitter, William, hold on 1 second. You guys can all find that SEC thinks that these guys, the short guys, you think they stood around and waited for the fundamentals that they called out were fraud are going to work out? You're out of your bird. That's all fraud. Give me 1 second. I posted the thing about a GDC. The shorts were calling up the SEC crying. They want to know why people are buying the stock. All right, that's their way, and the SEC basically told them to go pound salt. Imagine that these guys are trying to rob a bank, got busted, and then they're getting caught, and they want to get bailed out. It's complete. That today's morning was a complete bear raid. I expect the stock to turn. All right, on FingerMotion, some guy posted Radin, whatever his name is. I don't know how to pronounce this. Raran, Ike. He posted on Twitter, Finger, don't sleep how big the deal is. SAIJ is one of the big four Chinese auto, almost 1 trillion in assets since 2023. Jinji Technology has been working closely with SAIC Maximus, whatever, that's truck, whatever the hell it is. He wrote some more stuff about it. Let me see if I can find it, William. He wrote down the same thing. Equipped with it's equipped with the integrated C2 platform. So whatever they're doing, this gentleman picked out the name of the company they're doing it with, and it's one of the 4 big Chinese auto companies, has almost 1 trillion in assets. That's the Chinese government backing that company. And FingerMotion is working closely with them, installing the stuff in all the emergency vehicles, I guess, that they sell. So again, this is a $2 stock, $2.10 stock that is being manipulated, and the price is being manipulated so that we all think it's not worth it. It's just manipulation. Sooner or later, the fundamentals will will readjust the stock price. Institutions will see what's going on. Institutions will step in and start buying it when the fundamentals start to turn really to the upside. People are not blind. They can see that the fundamentals will be strong in this company. I posted before their partners are AIZ, a $10 billion insurance company out of New York, Munich Re, Pacific Life Re. Those are like $50 billion and I think $10 billion reinsurance companies. This automobile company, I'm sure it's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, whatever, or billions of dollars, whatever. The telecoms, billions of dollars. They're selling data. Go look at Snowflake. It's a $40 billion, $50 billion market cap company. They have data on 300 million Americans. FingerMotion has the data on 1.5 billion Chinese. And everyone in the world wants that data, whether it's Starbucks, McDonald's. They want to know if they're eating there. They want to know if they're selling what kind of alcohol, what's their insurance rates, what's their life insurance policies. It's all going to be based on what they do, where they eat, how fast they drive. And FingerMotion is getting that data. I've been told by a friend of mine on the institutional side, pay attention to the big data, that revenue is coming. You know, I told you before, the firm told my friend who works at the firm said that the FingerMotion was coming in and they were going to get a research report on this company. I don't know when that comes out, but I assume they met with the company because if my friend's telling me that, he had to hear it somewhere. We know the big data is here. We just don't know when the revenue is going to start to explode on that. He told me to watch for it. So these are all things that I see coming in the future. All right, I'm not making it up. It's right on Twitter. It's right there. I had no idea what the name of that company was. And the guy posted it 20 hours ago, and I wrote that. I wrote FNGR read up, the shareholder found gold. I didn't, that's people do their homework. All right, you do your homework and you get ahead of the curve. You can't just guess. Any questions, William?
I don't know. I didn't keep up. Let me look. I'll go to the last one first.
And if you always look, FingerMotion always has 200 for sale, 100 shares for sale. I quoted to the SEC. How many 100, less than 100 shareholders do we have? How many people own one share that they wake up at 7 in the morning and want to sell one share of a $2 stock? One share. How many times before you figure out that that's manipulation? I said that to the SEC.
Ace says he can beat you in a foot race. In fact, he'll give you a head start.
Yeah, Ace says, I heard he drags a piano when he runs. That's what he looks like. He's telling him to take the anchor off his back. I don't think he can catch me in a phone booth.
There's a stock, WHLR, sounds like a radio station, is up over 4%.
Wow, look at that, 391 today on 47 million shares on actual volume of 196,000.
Right.
So for all the people that had it, congratulations.
It's pretty cool, huh?
All right, congratulations if you were long. You should have told us before. We always like to hear about them before they're going to go. It's always nice to know. But listen, I got it. I am not a Monday morning quarterback. I'll say congratulations if you did have it. But I'm not the type of guy to go around the board looking for stocks that go from one to something. If you had it, congratulations. If you didn't know anything about it, get in line with the rest of us. We do know they happen all the time. Okay? A stock like FingerMotion, which is continually being manipulated, is being held down only for a bigger eruption down the road. I told you before, they picked the wrong company. The company has fundamental value. And all the press releases say it. You can read it yourself. Don't make me make that decision for you. I'm not an analyst. Benchmark, which is a Wall Street brokerage firm, had a research report, and the only firm that had a report on this company saying it was worth a minimum of 5, and they were going to adjust it upwards. It's on the tape. It's right there. Who the hell's selling it at 2? Who's waking up to sell their one share at $2? All right, all day long. Sell 1, sell 3, sell 2, sell 1, all day long. No one sells like that. It's complete fraud and manipulation, just trying to hold it down to give it a negative mark. Remember, people, if you're short 230 million shares and the stock runs up 10 cents, What's 10 cents on 230 million? That's a margin call of $23 million. When they push it down 10 cents, that gets relief pressure of $23 million. That's the reason they keep doing it. That's all the game is that margin number. And the margin number will eventually kill them. If Pat Byrne, if we do make it to Pat Byrne, one person write to me, well, they're going to take time to change the laws. Well, the rules are on the books already. All we need to do is enforce the rules. Very different. Enforcing the rules, it's game's over. Pat Byrne gets in with Donald Trump, the rules will be enforced, and it'll be wipeout city. Life-changing events. It's free inside information. Donald Trump told you he's firing the head of the SEC day one. He's the guy that was in front of Congress when they were asking him about MMTLP. Remember, everybody? And he just ducked. He did nothing. He's done nothing to help those people out. He's running interference for the short sellers. Well, he's getting kicked to the curb. And our people are going to be put in there. All right? And that's coming. This is life-changing, free inside information. Find whatever stock you want to play. I found mine. I studied it. You find your own. If you don't want to find, go. Then if you don't care about it, then move along. But the information is coming from the next president. Pat Byrne tells you he's going to be put in just to clean up stock settlement. Stock settlement is naked shorts, my friends. That's all it is. We buy it. You better deliver the stock. That's stock settlement. Right now, we buy it. We get nothing for it. You get an IOU. You get a counterfeit share. William, any questions?
Yeah, there's an amateur investor who is asking, why do you care about a special dividend to him? It didn't do anything for GTII. And so
Okay.
he's an
I
idiot. He
recap.
assumes that out of the thousands of companies, GTII and Finger are just alike.
Well, you see, he was wrong. GTII went from a special dividend going back in time was a special warrant at 275.
Right.
William, where did the stock go to?
It went to
Nine?
897.
So the stock went to 897 from 17 cents to 897.
Right.
So if you let's add a zeros to those numbers, right?
Right.
Think about that. Just add the make believe it was a dollar. Make believe it was $1.80.
Right.
And it went that going to $180 or $900 almost, right? From that.
In other
range,
words,
those
from
numbers,
18
right?
cents to $9 is like 180 to 900. Yeah, I see your point.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just change the numbers.
I
And
see
then
your
guess
point.
what,
Maybe
people?
if you wore a
For the
toupee.
gentleman that wasn't in here in the beginning, okay, I had conference calls when the stock was 60 cents, 40 cents, a dollar. We talked about it every day 4 years ago. We talked about the toxic debt guy, the Kramers. They got caught by the SEC. They got caught a couple of times by the SEC. Not only did we expose them, we exposed the prime broker, Alpine, and the proof is there. And the stock had a massive run, and it still has a big naked short position. And the dividend did work because the company has no fundamental value, and it went to $9. $9 on a special warrant at 2 3/4, and the brokerage firms were stopping people from exercising it. Why? Why wouldn't I be allowed to give the company my $2.75 and sell my stock at $9? Because they didn't have the warrants, so they blocked everyone from doing it. So the special dividends do work, and if you don't understand it, for the gentleman that's asking this question, I put it up on Twitter. It's very easy. It's called musical chairs. Play the song. Maybe him and his wife can walk around one chair. Stop the music. When whoever sits in the chair has a real share, whoever's standing owns a counterfeit. Do it 20 times. Tell me how it works out. It's called musical chairs.
That's not real musical chairs.
All right.
Anyway, he's gone. Anna says hi. She's here.
All right. Well, thank.
And it wouldn't surprise you probably, but this gentleman is
No.
anti-Trump. He's anti-Trump, so he can. He's obviously got a good brain.
I don't care if you like them, dislike them. I'm here about my financial future. If you're on this call, you're here for your financial future. If you do not vote for Trump, if he does not get in, you're all fucked. We're all fucked. I know I can live through it. I know I can trade my way. You guys will get wiped out. And it sucks. I got nothing to say. I'm not a political person. I don't give a flying fuck. But if you can't trade, you're never going to make any money. And if the rules stay slanted, you're all fucked. You, your kids, your grandkids. Get it through your head. That's what I'm here about. That's what it's about. If you got a beef or stick up your ass because you don't like the guy, then just look in the mirror and say, hey, kids, tell your kids and your grandkids, you're all going to get robbed. You're going to be working the rest of your days. Whatever you make, that's all you're going to make. And when you invest, you're going to lose. Go tell your kids that, because that's what's going to happen. And if it doesn't change now, it's never going to change. And after Trump gets in and Pat Byrne gets in, I'm done. These calls end. There's no more. I'm not doing this the rest of my life. I got it this far, and now I have the president. I got Pat Byrne, the best guy in the world. Elon Musk hates the shorts. Ryan Cohen hates the shorts. Devin Nunes hates the shorts. And you want to go against someone that's trying to stop this. You really give a flying shit about their economic programs? No one gives a shit about that stuff. The jobs reports, I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Stock settlement, and I can take care of my own life. So I got it. I'm not here to pitch you. I don't give a fuck who you write for. But just remember, turn around and look at your family and say, hey, anytime you invest, we're all going to get robbed. And everybody here, whether you're Republican, Democrat, we've been getting robbed. And enough is enough. That's it. If you can't figure that out, then what can I tell you?
There's a question on, MMTLP shares going. I'll answer it after you get off because it's not anything you're going to want to talk about. Did you see Ellie's asking, did you see the August payroll report? I didn't.
No, I did not.
Our economy is collapsing.
The economy is collapsing. There's people, I know people losing their jobs. I have people out in Silicon Valley. They've been telling me it's bad. It just, listen, I'm not here for cover-ups. I'm not here about migrants standing here, who's doing what. They let this whole thing happen. We have nothing to do with it. We're all in a mess. But if I have financial freedom, I can pick up, move my family, and go anywhere I want to go. No financial freedom, we're all going to be slaves. That's all you got to think about. Financial freedom, you can do whatever you like. No financial freedom, you're a slave. That's it. You're going to be working dog for the rest of your days. And I never, ever, ever had to work. I did trading. I made my own life. I made my own money, and I couldn't give a rat's ass. I did this because I saw this was a fraud from way back, and I decided I wanted to fight it, never thinking that I have to do it for 24 goddamn years.
Now.
I'm just telling you the truth. That's it. This is it. I don't want to hear any bashes. I don't really give a shit. I lived through the raging bull. I lived through all the attempts on my life. I lived through all the nonsense. Oh, it doesn't exist. Yeah, okay. Yes, I can show you videos the SEC telling you here. SEC reports. We know how the loophole is. I watched them kill United Airlines. I watched them kill many companies. And everybody knows who United Airlines is. It doesn't happen. Please. If it's no crime, how come they're hiding all the data? How come they won't tell anybody? MMTLP, just tell us what the number is. They did an investigation. No one will show the proof. No one wants to be transparent on anything. People, if you don't wake up, you're going to get robbed forever. Guys like Jeff Easton who walk around that fat bastard stealing people's money.
Ralph says, let's all vote for Trump as many times as we can.
I'm going to start bringing the dead people to the fucking, I don't care what it is. I need to make sure that the stock settles. If they force stock settlement, I'm going to make so much money, your heads will be spinning.
This
and
guy.
Guess what? Once they do it, all right, once they do it, The easy money is now. The hard money comes in later. So make your decisions on whatever you want to buy. I don't care if it's GameStop. Just pick whatever stock you want to go play. Good luck. But make sure you get your bets down. You got 47 days to go. We'd be down to 46.
So the guy who either talked to you or Twittered with you about the Maxis T90, he's here saying hi. Raden, R-A-D-E-N.
Yes, I caught it last night, and I appreciate it. And listen, people, I don't follow every gory detail on this stuff. I follow stock settlement. I glance at the fundamentals. When you do a deal with a major company, they make sure that you're the real deal. And you can go call any small company you like. All these small companies that have all this big revenue and all this stuff that you see that's out there, who are their partners and who's giving them the revenue? That's the most important thing. FingerMotion has monster partners, monster people. And if those people are verifying that you're good, okay? It's like Bernie Madoff. Everybody verified that he was good, right? That's how it works in business also. The big corporations, they all do their work and say, hey, this is Munich Re. We'd love to do business with you if you have that data. And then they search and research and make sure that they're legitimate. And once they sign a deal with you, then you're sort of blessed. And then Pacific Life stepped in. And then, AIZ stepped in. Now this company, the biggest company, one of the biggest automakers in China, is doing business with FingerMotion. And it's a $2 stock in the U.S. under attack. This stock should be 30 to 50 already. That's my opinion. 30 to 50 easy. I've always thought it's going to 100 without any short squeeze. These idiots jumped in and now turned it upside down. Now we have potentially to the thousands of dollars because of these idiots, not because of us. It's right there. It's like holding Apple down at $2. And meanwhile, they're selling iPhones and all this stuff to the world. And all of a sudden, one day it wakes up, it's $2,000. That's what it's like here.
Can Finger go to $1,400 a share?
I believe it can.
That it can?
Yeah, I do.
Eric wants to know if he can become a millionaire with only 750 shares. It would have to go to 1,333.333 cents per share.
So just put a good till candle in, go do something else and don't look.
Put your 750 out at...
Listen, let me tell you something. If that's 700 shares and it goes to 1,000, okay, it's going to be hard for you to sit there and say, well, you know what? I'm up blank amount of money on this much investment. It's hard to let it roll on a table, like at a dice table or a roulette wheel. I let it all roll. I'm up 100,000. Put it all on 25. Maybe that number will come out. It's hard to do. So again, each person individually has to make a decision. I'm not a believer in diamond hands. I actually spoke to one of our loyal shareholders about diamond hands, and we had a running joke between the two of us. And the only one I want to have diamond hands with would be my girlfriend, no one else. I don't think you believe in it.
Wait till I tell your wife.
I told him I was driving around looking for someone with diamond hands today. But anyway, don't believe in that shit. You do what you have to do for your family and yourself. I never believed in that.
I had a girlfriend. She'd say, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to pick up chicks." And she'd say, "Good luck."
Well, she was right. That was a good
She knew. She knew the odds were low.
Any girl that picks you up, they don't know what they're missing here. You're pure gold. You're gold, William. You're gold.
Yeah, you're gold. Oh yeah, Spiney's pointing out he'd have to sell it at $2,500, pay the IRS first. Whatever, it's going to be tough to become a millionaire on 750 shares.
Well,
but it could happen.
Nothing.
Could happen.
Listen, I told you yesterday, the last few days, I had a friend that bought GDC, living on a couch in a friend's apartment, in credit card debt. Okay? Borrowed money, bought 18,000 shares at $1.
Of what? GDC?
GDC.
Wow.
Sold it, between 7 and 9, so let's say $8. I don't know.
And
the
he had
exact number.
10,000 shares?
18,000.
Oh my gosh, I'm yellows. I'm yellows.
He paid off all his credit card debt. Now he has
Wow.
the money for a down payment for an apartment, fixed his
Wow.
car, and he bought 4,000 shares of Finger.
Wow.
Couldn't thank me enough.
Wow. What state does he live in?
New York.
Oh, he's up there, so you can buy him dinner. Or he can buy you dinner.
He could buy me dinner. No, I'm just saying, but that's what I'm talking about, life changing. He had a job, he was working, couldn't keep up, got the credit card debt from vacations and doing this, fixing things. He lost his apartment, he couldn't afford his apartment, living on someone's couch, all completely reversed because of GDC.
That's amazing.
Hey, thank God someone had something. I love hearing that someone changed their life. It was great. Great story.
I love that story. I'm just jealous.
Never be jealous. You'd be happy for things like
But
that.
I'll get over it.
That's how I feel. Just, again, I listen, I'm thrilled. I'm here. People made money. I know people wealthy that made a lot of money. But that's the story that sticks it to me. I told you my wife's friend, I got her in at $1, whatever it was. I made her sell it at $7. And she's been using the proceeds to buy Finger. She had 6,000 shares.
Amazing.
I'm just saying, there's people like that made money, which is great.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. John says hello from a casino.
Ah, John.
David points out that we're on day 636 for Nextbridge.
It's unbelievable. It's remarkable. Till this day, I can't believe they had the balls to do that to those people. It's just remarkable. And they blame John Berger. That's the best part.
Yeah, it's just like those guys calling up the SEC saying, hey, why is the stock going up? The SEC does nothing about the criminals stock after stock after stock going down.
Well, I put up a sign many times. We've been blowing the whistle on the truck. Remember, people, whistleblowing is no one can ever see it. We called up the SEC every day at 12 o'clock. Everyone always called up and registered a complaint. We don't know where those phone calls go. No one ever knows. By putting the truck out there, you can't be more out. We basically showed them we're whistleblowing. They can't hide the fact. We got pictures of the truck right in front of their building. So they can't hide the fact that we weren't whistleblowing. We reported guys left and right. And not one penny's come anybody's way. Zero. I said, how could they not whistle? Who are they giving these proceeds to? Right? By all accounts, William, we should be getting $1 billion ourselves for all the crimes we reported, all the naked short selling, illegal short selling, this, that. They never gave us a nickel. How do you whistleblow? What do you do? We did exactly what they told us to do, and none of us ever got a nickel. Right?
Well,
what exactly are we supposed to do for whistleblowing? What are you supposed to do?
Sounds like
Do we actually need a whistle? I guess we need a whistle. We didn't use that one.
Sounds like you have some faith in the system.
No, what I'm trying to do is embarrass them. I have no faith. I was embarrassing them. The truck is an embarrassment to the government. It's an embarrassment. That's the only reason I did the truck.
All right, Spiney's being a comedian.
Nobody else has any questions? I'm babbling as quick
Not
as
really.
I can, recapping
Not really.
as fast as I can go.
You can keep babbling if you want, but there's no real...
I just look at it. If you go look at barchart.com, let me go look in here for a second. 1 second, everybody. If you go to bar chart, one word, and then put in GDC, let's see what happens here. GDC, I'm going to do a chart. Hold on a second, not come up yet. Hold on a second. To the interactive chart. I'll do the 1 day. And give me the 1 day. And I can actually see the attacks. Out of the gate, they sold 200,000 straight down out of the gate. Then followed it up with another 75,000, 80,000, 50,000, down to the low of another 80,000. You can actually see the big red bars of selling. Those are naked short selling attacks. Just think about it. You have 200,000 shares. You want to not sell it at 7. You're trying to sell it below 6. You just lost $200,000 in profit or whatever you did. You just took a beating on it. That is illegal naked short selling in real time. And I'll post that for you so you can all see the lovely picture that I'm seeing. This is just a 1 day chart. I'll put it up now. You guys can see it. I'm doing your legwork for you again. These are things you need to do for yourself. You can understand. All right, here is the attack. And you can see the chart yourself. It's right there. Just look at the red bars. I just posted it on Twitter. Look at the big red bar right out of the gate. Sell it straight down as fast as possible. And then it just relentless, just keeps coming at you. Nobody could withstand. And everybody starts looking around saying, who's selling all the stock? Who's selling all the stock? And then you see it. Right there. All I'm trying to do is teach you and show you what's going on. That's it. These are all little tidbits that can help you, that'll teach you how to trade. Like I said, once Trump gets in and Pat Burns involved, we're gone. I've been doing this for too long. It's not worth it anymore. And that's the end of the game. And then it's up to you to try to make your money. Right now, you have an opportunity. You got free inside information. You're getting it from the next president of the United States. You're getting it from Pat Byrne, who's going to work in the administration. No administration has ever said they're going to fix this problem. And it's right there. And they're telling you. They're coming.
Pete is pointing out that Northwest Bio is moving, and he'll buy you a toupee if it works.
I've spoken to many people about Northwest Bio. There's been videos on it. The science, they're past the science. The Adam Fronstein has been doing nothing but trying to bash this company for years. And, like I told you yesterday, getting in early is hard. People got in early, paid $1.50, paid $4 for it when they knew this technology was going on at the UCLA. All the trials were going on at UCLA. All right? I know people that knew about it. They all bought it, got wiped out. But it's 30 cents. Now the company's market cap is destroyed, but that doesn't mean it can't go up, Mm-hmm. So if someone comes in and buys the company, it's 1 billion shares now in the company. If they pay $10, they're paying $10 billion for this company. Now, the company could be worth a lot more, but you know what? Everyone who's in at 30 cents, you bet your ass you'll take $10, right? This company should have been worth, with a normal market cap, should be worth, $30, $40 billion. But a stock that goes from 30 cents to 10, everybody's just going to cut bait and sell it as fast as they can. And I can't blame you. That's how they beat you on Wall Street. They dilute you to death. FingerMotion has been doing the opposite. They're not going to the street. They stepped out one time and they got raped. or tried to get raped by Lynn Partners, and they got busted. My friends paid $10. He gave him $3.5 million. At 10, he bought stock. He got 350,000 shares. Imagine if he did it down here, right? But he didn't, and he didn't cry, and he bought more because they know the fundamentals are going to play. They're going to win at the end. Anyway, I'm done talking, William. I had enough. I've done everything I can. We got 46 days to go. I appreciate the gentleman doing his. Anybody finds anything about FingerMotion, please put it up. Again, I can't find them all. I don't have that much time in a day. And I just here to expose the shorts. I love reading about their fundamentals. I don't know. I didn't even think about asking who they're doing it for, but that was a great find, and I thank you. And just put the puzzle together. It's right there. That's how you win. People go to the racetrack. What do? They read the racing form. People bet football games. What do you just throw a dart? Most people understand what's the point line. What's this? Who's quarterback? Is he playing? Study a little bit. The stock market's the same way. And if you're right, it changes your life. And I showed you how it changed one person's life. And that's on a stupid stock I knew nothing about but the symbol. Right? That's all I knew about it. Anyway, everyone, listen, have a great day. William, go outside. It's beautiful out and enjoy yourself.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Call ended.
All right, so somebody asked about MMTLP. I like Northwest Bio, Pete the Greek. I don't know anything about it, but my opinion is that it'll get bought out. Northwest Bio will be purchased by a big company, and then the shorts will be in trouble. And that's your exit, 80 cents, $1.50, $2. And if there's more than one buyer, the price goes up. The U3 halt is permanent. They will not reverse the U3 halt, in my judgment, Justin. And if you're still in MMTLP, you are the sucker at the table. I really think that you need to move your shares. I can't give you advice, but you can go down where they play 3-card Monte. Ask that guy for advice, whether you should keep MMTLP or not. But it's not going to be what's done halt. I will learn how now to keep some files over here, but you can go to the FINRA website, you can go to Nextbridge's website. I don't know if MMAT's website is still up, but you used to be able to go there. And you can see in black and white print that MMTLP expired, was retired, ceased to exist on, I believe, December 13th of 2022. It's gone. The MMTLP is nothing. They halted the trading in MMTLP on the 8th. I'm doing it by memory. Maybe it was the 9th. On the 9th, on the morning of the 9th. And so it didn't trade on Friday the 9th, and it didn't trade on Monday the 12th. Now the liars say, well, you couldn't have done it anyway because it wouldn't have settled in time. Well, you are allowed on Wall Street to trade on short settlement. So if you traded it on Friday and we were selling, you could say sell +1. Or if you were trading it on Monday, you could say sell same day settlement. But they leave that out of the article. But on the 13th, which was Tuesday, it's all over, game over. So if you're still in MMTLP, you're going to lose all your money, in my opinion. If you move to Nextbridge, I think you're going to be well rewarded. But those are just my opinions. Could there be a major settlement to the positive to people who did not make any effort to move their shares of MMTLP to Nextbridge? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think the lawyers on the other side will say, Your Honor, Justin Babish had 667 days to move his shares of MMTLP to the transfer agent and claim his asset, and he didn't do it. So he abandoned, Your Honor, he abandoned his right to claim the asset. That was a decision he made. Justin, you can further look in the fact sheet, FAQ sheet, that FINRA put out, which I've read to you. I may have it here in my files. And FINRA clearly puts the onus on you to move your shares. On you to call your broker-dealer and have your broker-dealer transfer, peel off shares from their omnibus certificate in street name, peel those shares off and send them to Nextbridge. It's on you, Justin. It says so right in the FINRA document. So what would the attorney, let's say 3 years on, say to the judge? Well, Your Honor, Justin Babish never asked for his shares. He could have had his shares for, well, what we know about now, 667 days. So, Your Honor, we feel like we no longer have an obligation to Mr. Babish because he never asked for his shares. We stood ready for 2 years to deliver those shares, and we had to close our books. I think that argument will get a long way with a judge. Your Honor, why are we here? Mr. Babish could have had his shares delivered to the transfer agent and owned Nextbridge shares for $60, and he didn't do it. Why is he wasting the court's time? All he had to do was call E-Trade and ask them to transfer the shares. Anyway, you get my point. It's going to be a losing argument in court unless you try to move your shares. Unless you try to move your shares and get a no. If you try and get a no, then you got an argument. But I don't know that it's going to be all that successful, Justin. My opinion is they're delaying for a reason. And that reason may be to run out the clock on legal arguments. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. You know, the time frame that you can make a claim. Luckily, there's a lot of people working really hard on this. Mark Bazile, Richard Hoffman, it might be filing again. Rosa, and others. There's dozens of people working their butt off to try to get some sort of recompense. But the U3 was meant to be permanent, and even if it were to be reversed, which it will not be, there's nothing. MMTLP is nothing. If you're listening to Double D over on the Twitter Spaces, you're making a tragic mistake in your source of advice. MMTLP is worthless. It is just an accounting placeholder for what the brokerage firm owes you for your purchase of MMTLP, which should convert into shares of Nextbridge. If there were not fraud, it would have been automatic. But FINRA specifically states in its fact sheet that it's on you to ask to move the shares. So it's not automatic in this case. And you've been given public notice that if you want your shares of Nextbridge, you have to ask. And guess what? Right now, all day long, you can get your shares of Nextbridge. What did Wall Street owe you? You put up the cash, they owed you shares. Well, we've all learned that it's fraud. But what were those shares of MMTLP that they didn't give you? They just gave you an IOU. Those shares of MMTLP entitled you to 1 share of Nextbridge Hydrocarbons. That's it. That's all that Wall Street owed you. That's it. They don't owe you anything else. Now, you can argue that the U3 halt stole your right to trade, to take advantage of a massive imbalance in supply and demand. And I think you have a good argument there. But do you think the judge anywhere in this country is going to award you short squeeze type money in court? I don't think so. I don't think so. Maybe. If they can prove those trades that Mark Bazile found of 2,400. But the other side will say, well, they didn't really happen. They were reversed. I just don't think the court system is going to come in and say Justin Babish deserves $3,000 a share and therefore everybody else does. I don't see that happening. It might. I mean, I guess after 20 years, Angelos won his asbestos case and the tobacco cases were won. But Justin, I don't think you have enough money to carry out the lawsuit. So what's the easiest thing? Accept the fact that they took away 2 days of trading. Accept that fact. You're not going to get it back. And if you did, it'd be worthless anyway, 2 days of trading. You get zero out of that. That dog don't hunt. So what's the value of your investment? It's Nextbridge. And I think Nextbridge is very valuable in the long run. I've got bad news for you, though. I think, it's just my opinion. I think Nextbridge is going to raise money through Roth Capital, and I don't think any of us are going to be happy with the price they raise it at. So that price, whatever it is, let's say it's $10 a share. I don't know what it is, $12, $8. That'll probably be what the lawyers key off a settlement, if there is one, for MMTLP, if they ever have to do it. The more delay, the more they may or may not have to. So anyway, Justin, you're welcome to hang on to MMTLP. Hang on for dear life. Go over to Twitter and listen to those people who tell you you're entitled to something. Those people won't be there once the statute of limitations runs out. They won't be there once Nextbridge raises its money and the 165 million shares are all spoken for. They won't be there. But they're there now. Go listen to them. You'll feel good, like you're going to get something. I'm going to get something. You're not. You're not. I think realistically, a resolution or a settlement of MMTLP will come somewhere between 0, 290 maybe, and whatever the Roth Capital offering is priced for. So Maybe you get 10 bucks minus legal fees or plus legal fees. Maybe you get pain and suffering, maybe. And maybe you get 10 or 15 bucks. If you move your MMTLP to Nextbridge, one distribution, not right away. Unfortunately, you're going to have to wait. It's a private company. But at some point, I bet over the next 1 to 2 to 3 years, the first distribution they make out of cash flow could, it's not a promise, it's a prediction, but it could, the first distribution could be worth more than $10 or $15 to you. But you're going to continue to listen to Double D and continue to wait for the U3, this wrong, this wrong. You know, people get wronged in life all the time, and the world keeps spinning. And I'm not the one to lecture you on that, because I have the weakest brain in the world, the weakest emotional constitution. All I ever do to myself is think, God, I would, I could, I shoulda. Why didn't it go that way? Why did she do that? He did that. What could I have said differently? What could I have done differently if I had only? And time goes by. And time goes by. And the world keeps spinning. Babies are born. New tennis players come out and beat Djokovic. Brand new billionaires are created. Inventions are made. And you just, hey, it's 667 days. When is the U3 halt going to be lifted? Justin, what the heck are they going to trade? There's nothing to trade. MMTLP is nothing. Nothing. And worse yet, the bad guy lawyers are going to argue that the maximum that should be paid to you and to me is what Roth Capital priced the deal at. Because Roth Capital has all knowledge, even though the fraudsters are on the other side saying, well, we'll buy into that deal, but they keep the price down because it's really the shorts behind them, in my opinion. But the lawyers will say, hey, that's the marketplace. That's a sophisticated firm, which it is, and they came up with the price of X, and that's all we think we should pay. Anything else came afterward. So if you hang on to your MMTLP, my judgment, you cap your upside at somewhere between, they're arguing right now that you knew it was worthless and par value was 0.0001 because they're liars. If you look up liar and lawyer in the dictionary, it's the same thing. Liar, lawyer, interchangeable. They're liars. So they're going to argue zero, and at the maximum, look, I don't know what the Roth Capital deal is going to be priced for, but you know, it could be $5 a share. I hope it's $10. I hope it's 12. I hope it's 15. I hope it's $21 a share. But I don't see it much higher than in the range of $5 to $20 a share. I could be surprised. And luckily, my opinion doesn't matter. I don't know the data. I don't know the demand on the book, that, you know, who wants in. I don't know the engineering report. There's a lot I don't know. But my guess is, because it's early stages from a banker's standpoint of the development of the Oro Grande field, it's not going to be a high number. So if you hold on to MMTLP, I think the most you make, the most, is whatever Roth Capital does this offering for, plus maybe pain and suffering. And then you got to take off, because it'll probably be class action, you got to take off 40, 50, 60% for the lawyers and the liars. So, Justin, the way to make money here is to accept that the world is unfair. We got burned by a system which is rigged. Every advantage goes to the criminals because they concentrate money. They get to buy lobbyists that talk to Ann Wagner. If we go see Ann Wagner, we get to meet an assistant in a side room. All of the advantages are with the criminals. And Ann Wagner doesn't care if there's transparency, even though she comes from the show me state. She doesn't care. Why? Because she gets to eat at the Capitol Grill, and her daughters get to go to the best schools, and she gets to keep her house in McLean, and life is grand. Life is grand for Ann Wagner. And she can live with her, in my opinion, with her dishonesty. So hang on to your MMTLP. Keep asking when the U3 halt is going to be lifted. Go over the cliff like lemmings with double D. It's not a happy road. Or take charge of your life and call your broker-dealer while the shares are available. Move your MMTLP into real shares at Nextbridge. And I want to go answer PS71's question. There is no way that you're going to miss out. Let's go up and answer it. Justin, I gave your point way too much, and I apologize if I went off the top. All right, PS71, PS71, PS71. There's Anna. She is doing tremendous things, Justin, to fight for fairness here in Nextbridge. I can't find PS71. Oh, here it is. Okay, 3, 1. Yay, just got around to transferring my shares to Nextbridge. Schwab said MMAT said the shares could not be directly registered. Well, that's not true. But it may be what MMAT meant is MMAT couldn't do it. They could only send the big bulk share certificate for street name to Schwab. I don't know. I wasn't part of that conversation. But based on what you wrote, MMAT's wrong. Yeah, they have a block certificate. Okay, so maybe that's what they said. It's a block certificate that went to Schwab. That's true. MMAT can't break it out. Why? Because that relationship is between you and Schwab. MMAT's relationship is between MMAT and Schwab. Schwab took your money to buy the shares. And then Schwab supposedly located or asked for a receipt of their shares. We all know they commit fraud. Everybody looks the other way, like the Keystone Cops. But the share ownership at the DTCC reflects that Schwab owns, I make it up, 10 million shares of MMAT, which distributed MMTLP, which then at the time, finally after months, became Nextbridge Hydrocarbons. That distribution is done in the bulk form because it's done in Chuck Schwab's name. MMAT's relationship to its shareholder is Chuck Schwab. Chuck Schwab then subdivides it, and that's where they get to lie. They get to move around and play a game with their customers. They took in far more money than they actually located stock for. Now they might be victims too, and it might be that the market makers or the prime brokers never delivered. But did Schwab ever ask for a receipt? If I were Schwab, I wouldn't want to go into court saying, well, we asked, but they didn't deliver. Well, did you ask again? Yeah, we asked again, but they didn't deliver. And you asked again? Yeah, we asked again. We ask every 30 days, they never deliver. Well, when would you think it'd be appropriate to buy them in? Well, Your Honor, they're good clients of ours. We've always trusted them in the past. But they didn't deliver these shares for 600 days? I mean, now it's too late to buy them in, but conceptually, at some point, the brokerage firms, the broker-dealers, are aiding and abetting this fraud. But anyway, so it's a block certificate in street name. And what you, PS71, do is you ask Schwab to have your portion of that street name certificate peeled off, put in your name, and sent to you. And so MMA, Schwab said yeah. So some idiot at Schwab. That's fine. That's all fine. That's all good. $80 and 4 to 6 weeks. I think I paid 60, but I might have paid 80. And I think it took me 8 weeks, but according to E-Trade's records, it took 4 weeks because they time-stamped it. I'm to my memory, April 1, the most recent certificates, and I got them a month later. So you'll get them. And then I guess I'm supposed to send them to Equinity. Well, you don't have to. I haven't sent mine to Equinity. Once Chuck Schwab requests the certificates in your name, they will, I believe they call, but it might be done electronically. An account is automatically set up at the transfer agent in your name because the certificates can only be born 2 ways. They can be born directly in the name of the investor or in the name of the broker-dealer street name. Once they take it out of street name, it's not in limbo. It goes into your name. Your name is recorded at Xfinity. They have a ledger. You're there. And if you don't believe me, sometime during this process, call Xfinity. They'll put you on a computerized thing. Boop, 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 boop. If you want to know your shares, please press 1. If you want, that kind of thing. And so you already have, or will have shortly, your account set up at Xfinity, which is the transfer agents. And there's no way for that to change. They belong to you. Now, you can send them to Equinity, or whatever the hell the name is. It'll cost you the cost of FedEx. I wouldn't sign the back of that certificate. I would print out a stock power, and I would actually send the stock power separately. But whatever. So it could cost you $80 to get it back to Xfinity. I didn't do that yet. And I don't think you have to, because they already have the record of your shares. Now, I would take a picture of your shares in case there's a fire. You can have them replaced. There's no real benefit of holding your shares. There's the risk you lose them. I suppose one benefit is you know you have them, but there's no real benefit. On the other hand, there's no urgency to transfer them to the transfer agent because you're already in the books of the transfer agent. So you can be calm on that. Now, when the urgency will come is if Nextbridge were to make a deal with, I don't know, Chevron, and Chevron offered to give cash and I don't know, 1 share of Chevron for every 10 shares of 15 shares of Nextbridge. Well, then they would have your name. You'd get a letter from them because it's on the transfer agent, but you'd have to turn in your certificates then, and there'd be some urgency then, but not like you're going to miss out. There'd be a deadline to get it done by. The only other time where there would be urgency is if the stock started trading and there were some sort of squeeze, maybe. Well, you're going to wish you had your certificates in electronic form. By sending them to the transfer agent, they keep them on their record, and they can immediately send those shares electronically wherever you want once it starts trading. That becomes a little more urgent. The other thing that at some point you want to be ahead of is if you just forget to send your certificates and Nextbridge were to start trading and it traded for 5 years, and then you remembered, oh, wait a minute, I've got my shares. Then it would probably cost you $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 to get those certificates back into electronic form, and it would cost you, I'm going to guess, 10 to 25% spread off of the bid if you were trying to sell it, because you might have to go through this other, I don't know a better word to use than Shylock over-the-counter firm that would accommodate you, and it would probably take 2 to 3 months. So there is a reason to move over to the transfer agent. You're just not in that period, that urgency now. So you might as well, but it's not like you have to put it on the top of your to-do list. You just get it done by the end of the year or something. Because I don't think Nextbridge is going to go public. I sure as heck hope it doesn't. If it goes public, the value will be destroyed by the criminals. Anyway, that's a long answer. So anyway, I guess I'm supposed to send them to Equinity. Yeah, you don't have to, but I would say that eventually you should. It'll be cheapest if you do it whilst there's still friends and everybody's friendly and it doesn't cost anything. 2 separate CRSS reps told me since day one they have not sent 1 share to AST. I'm so slow, PS71. I don't know what CRSS is. I can't think of what CRSS is. They have not sent 1 share. Yeah, I haven't sent mine to Equinity. Now I worry if something settles while the shares are in transit or when I have possession of them that I could miss out. What a cluster. Yeah, don't feel that way. Don't feel that it is annoying. I can't disagree with your last your last statement. But no, nothing will happen while they're in transit. During this 4 to 6 weeks, your ownership is recorded at some point, I think almost immediately, at the transfer agent. If for some reason Wall Street decided to make a settlement offer during those 4 or 6 weeks, I see no evidence of that. But if they were to do it, both common sense tells me and the fact that Greg McCabe is the largest shareholder in the point of negotiation, they're going to offer it to everybody, not just to the people who have nothing in their brokerage account. They'll offer it to the people that have something at Nextbridge. And this in transit stuff, it's all recorded. You will be included. And the time frames of the settlement will be inclusive of the weeks involved to get the shares to Nextbridge, to the transfer agent, and back out again. So there's no way that something's going to happen while the shares are in transit. No way at all. And you're going to miss out. No way at all. You'll get a proxy or some form to fill out, and there will be allowances for delivery back and forth. There is absolutely no way that you can miss out on a settlement. No way at all. That's just fear mongering on the Twitter Spaces, because they don't want you to do anything. You did the right thing. I really congratulate you to move your shares to Nextbridge, in my judgment. That is a real asset. I think you'll be given an opportunity to take that real asset and convert it to a settlement. But I think by the time there's a settlement, you're going to find that the real asset is more valuable to you than what they're offering. But we don't know. That's complete speculation on my part. There's no way you're going to miss out. And you can't lose your certificates, in the sense that the transfer agent knows what you own. Now, you could lose them, and it could cost money to have them replaced, which is another reason, while you know where they are, get them to the transfer agent. But like I say, there's no urgency. Personally, I don't think Nextbridge will trade. I don't think Nextbridge should trade. And I think they have an 18-month to 5-year development ahead of them. And I'd be perfectly comfortable if they remain private the whole darn time. You don't need to see a price on your statement created by false price discovery in the U.S. stock markets to feel like you own something of value. Nextbridge, look, I don't know what Alex and his team are going to be able to raise for Nextbridge and at what price. But it's, the S3 says 40 million shares. And if you assume $10 a share, just because I can do that arithmetic, that's $400 million. Well, Nextbridge immediately becomes a serious player in Texas oil and gas. Their first use of proceeds will be to drill and complete 5 wells by the end of this year. Now, the boo birds will say, "Oh, that's meaningless. They're not producing anything. They haven't found anything." Well, whatever. Let them say whatever they want to say. The fact is, and I've been around oil and gas long enough to know that I don't know what I'm talking about, but I've also been around it long enough to know and witness when the money stops flowing. And they've already, in the filings, they originally drilled 8 wells. Then they met their commitments on 2 years. I think it was 21 and 23, 5 each. So they drilled, by my arithmetic, 18 wells. Then they did the Johnson project, which I think is separate. So they drilled 18 wells already. If they weren't finding encouraging data, encouraging science, in confirming results that confirmed matching seismic and matching Rich Masterson's theory, they'd stop drilling. They wouldn't keep drilling. But they didn't stop drilling. They have kept drilling. The other thing they wouldn't do is increase their ownership from 75% to 100%. The other thing they wouldn't do is work so hard from when the criminals, who you can't help but listen to because they're here all the time, when they started shorting Torchlight and destroying it, well, those core group of guys, and they were mostly guys, there were 2 women that came and went. But anyway, men and women, they stayed and fought through it all. They never quit. And the principal guy, Greg McCabe, has put a substantial amount of money on the line. And he's using all of his powers, all of his wiles to create cash flow, to create assets so that he keeps the Oro Grande field. So anyway, they've drilled, I think, 18 wells. And now they're going to drill and complete 5 more. That's 23. You would not drill 23 wells unless you were encouraged by what you're finding as you drill. You'd already stop, particularly with your own money, because in essence, it's been the group's money to date. And they're not trying to con Roth Capital. They're not trying to con Wall Street. They're trying to develop this asset, which, according to Torchlight, could be the largest onshore discovery in 30, 40 years. We'll see. I mean, those are big numbers. I think the oil and gas has always been there. People have known it. It's just you got to build the infrastructure, and vertical wells didn't pay for themselves out in the middle of Texas Longhorn country with no infrastructure. But the technology of horizontal, the fracking technology, and you have to do it on an industrial scale. But first, you have to make sure you own all the acreage you want. So they've got 134,000 acres contiguous. They need to drill, I think it's all been unitized. So I've never read the lease. But I think that if they drill the 5 wells, they hold the entire 134,000 acres, even though it's broken up into multiple leases. So anyway, they're going to drill and complete those 5 wells from the $400 million by the end of the year. Now, if they have $400 million, they could drill those wells deep and then turn them horizontal and they could go way, way out. The science out of those wells will be amazing. They could spend on 5 wells, they could spend $25 million a well. And now I'm not saying specifically in one well. They build the platform and the camp, and then they drill one well to hold it, but while they're there, they could drill a Christmas tree and then really see what they got. I don't know what the plan is. So that's one use of proceeds. Drill enough wells to hold the acreage. The second use of proceeds as a priority is to renew the acreage. So they're fighting two things, because everyone, the internet educates everyone. And in Texas, if you produce wells, that data is available to the world. So you keep the project, it's a tight hole. It's a tight project. You keep your mouth shut because you want to renew the leases inexpensively. I think it's already contractually agreed. So as long as they drill the 5, I think the renewal is a reasonable price anyway. And one thing that works to advantage of Nextbridge is any competing lease buyer may or may not be able to follow through on drilling quickly enough that the leaseholder would be happy. So it's not just the price, it's the ability of the operator to perform. All right, so number 1, they drill the 5 and complete 5 wells. Number 2, they renew the leases on 134,000 acres for 4 or 5 years. And number three, they go out based on their seismic, based on their science, and they go acquire another 5,000 acres that's right in the sweet spot, or it's right on the edge, or it's prospective. I don't know the data, but now's the time to do it because they can go do it inexpensively. So those would be the first 3 uses of proceeds. The next use of proceeds, probably, I'm guessing, but that's probably what I would do, is that Greg McCabe, I am sure, sees deal after deal after deal after deal after deal after deal. So I would, if I were Greg McCabe and I raised $400 million, I committed, let's say, $150 million, I got $250 million left, I'd pick a deal out. And I'd say, you know what? Let's go get it. And I'd go acquire something. I don't know what his parameters are, but maybe I'd go acquire something in the Permian Basin that's producing, but still has locations and even the potential for exploration. But I would maybe go buy cash flow with upside. And I'm sure those deals are out there. We're not far enough along in the cycle that those deals are gone completely. They're probably priced at, I don't know, PV10, PV15. When I first started looking at those deals, they were you could get PV30, PV35. But anyway, that's what he might do. Now you might be, I'm an owner of it. I might be disappointed because then that weighs down the project with less exciting assets in terms of hockey stick growth. So it's a trade-off because right now Nextbridge could have just stellar expansion in shareholder value by drilling up, I don't know the number, 15, 20, 30 more wells. And all of a sudden, you've got a multi-billion-dollar asset or more. But that won't probably happen if you buy cash flow. That'll probably be a little more sedate. It'll probably grow at 30% a year. Maybe more, depends on what a deal he's got. And then remember, he knows how to go into the deep wells in Louisiana. And all you have to do is find a salt dome down there, and it can be massive reserves as well. So, just to summarize and get off this subject, I think that whatever Alex and his team prices this deal at, if the company is able to raise the full amount, let's say it's 400 million, we will have to chalk off the price to, darn it, that's disappointing. But then when we see what McCabe does with that money, I think he can make Nextbridge a $50, $75, $100 stock in a relatively short period of time. I'm not saying 6 months, but maybe 18 months, maybe 24 months. He creates a lot of value, and he never has to go back to Wall Street again. He could also, he could join in projects with others. He could acquire companies. He could, I suppose, he might have another field he wants to acquire. But after doing that, after getting cash flow going, after proving up the hockey stick valuation of Oro Grande, if it's there, after cash flow is exceeding capex, then he can make distributions. And I think Nextbridge will make greater distributions than MMTLP settlements or resolutions will be. And I hate to say that, but these dear people have been fighting for almost 2 years. I think 2 years is a clock, and I think there's enough 2 years, regardless of whether or not there's a clock on statute of limitations. It's enough time for the attorneys on the bad guy's side to argue, look, for 2 years the stock wasn't worth very much. And for 2 years, people could have asked for their shares. So, Your Honor, we don't feel like we owe more than some de minimis amount. And that's where I think MMTLP is going to end up settling out. I'm sorry to be negative, but that's just how I feel about it. I'm going to continue to fight. Next time Anna's in town or all these guys, I'll walk the halls. I'll go do it myself if I ever have some time where I'm not stressed out with my own life. But I'll go do it. I'll keep fighting. But anyway, you're not going to miss out, PS71. You won't miss out. The SEC is slower than the World Bank right now. And your shares, as soon as they're split off of the bulk street name certificate, they're in your name as far as the transfer agent that is concerned. There's a record of them. You are on the books of Nextbridge. And Greg McCabe is not going to pull out of the station unless you are on board. And I think you can go to the bank on his integrity. Didn't some investors left after the drilling? I don't know of any, but it's possible, Edward. People sometimes put up money, like I've done it myself, where I've put up money to join in on a project, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, I don't have any more money, you know? So I can't come in the next round or the next round unless there's success. But also wealthy people do that. I've raised money for projects in Texas, Illinois, Indiana, uh, uh, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia. Um, got close to one in Pennsylvania. In Colorado, in Mississippi, offshore, Gulf of Mexico, and even wealthy people, after, if wells don't succeed enough, they just change their mind. They decide to go somewhere else. So it's possible investors left. I don't think that means anything to me anyway, Edward. Um, what means a lot to me is the 5 or 6 gentlemen who've been in this the longest are still putting up money. But you could argue MMAT left, but they never wanted to be there in the first place. You could argue even John Berta left, but I'm not sure his ownership or anything because he went on to make money in other projects, which is normal. Life goes on. But the core people, Greg McCabe in particular, has just poured more and more money to make this successful. Having said that, if they raise 400 million, I bet I don't know the number. I saw in the last filing the debt is around 50 million, but to the extent there's more, I bet at least 50 million will go pay off the debt, and a lot of that might go to Greg McCabe. But that's good. It's nothing like having an oil and gas company with no debt. Nothing like that. MMTL value is 0. Can Fidelity? Yeah, Bunny, I did that. I transferred. I don't have a lot of shares. I've got somewhat over 4,000 shares. I forget. 4,269 by memory. And about 2/3 of that was in my regular account. I transferred that not this past August, 2 Augusts ago. Well, not this August, the August prior to that. I transferred it, and I was nervous. I didn't believe it would come. I put the instructions in maybe June, maybe May. And I was like, I'll never get it. Everybody's going to be asking for their shares. I've been shocked that people aren't asking for their shares. I think the campaign on Twitter has been very successful. But to me, I wanted those shares because they have value. MMTLP doesn't. Well, I got them last year. But then I waited on my IRA, and I thought, well, number one, maybe there's a settlement. I was just like everybody out there. What if there's a settlement and it's cash? It's my IRA. That would be great. So I put it off. But as more time went by, I started thinking that's not going to happen. But anyway, that was one reason. The other reason was I want to be in it this way, just to be in it with everybody else to see what happens. And then I started thinking, you know what? That could be a really expensive go along and get along kind of decision. So, Bunny, I called up E-Trade and I said in my IRA I'd like to move my shares of MMTLP to the transfer agent and claim my Nextbridge. And they said, well, we can't do that, sir. This is, we're your custodial, whatever. And I didn't have a big enough account to go find. There are custodials that'll do it for you. So I said, well, I'd like to transfer those shares out as is to my regular account. And he said, well, that's gonna cause tax consequences. I said, I understand that. That's fine with me. So he sent me a form to sign. Now, I'll tell you what I believe is I paid $8, and so I have a loss from $8 down to zero. I believe that transfer out is zero. I'm transferring nothing out. But I'll check with an accountant just to make sure. But there's no quote. They don't trade. It's been 667 days. For all intents and purposes, it's clear I can't sell those. There's no market in them, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to. So whatever I speculate it's worth is kind of irrelevant from a tax standpoint. So anyway, I signed the form. It took them 1 or 2 days. They transferred the stock out of my IRA to my regular account, and I called every day. And then I requested from my regular account that those shares be transferred to the transfer agent. I never thought it would happen. I thought surely it's been over a year. It's not going to happen. Everybody's going to have moved already. It happened. I got my shares from the time they time-stamped it in 4 weeks. And so yes, you can, Fidelity can transfer your MMTLP from your IRA, move it to your regular account, and then they can transfer that to the transfer agent so you can claim your Nextbridge shares. That assumes, Bunny, that Fidelity still has enough street name shares, this bulk certificate in street name shares, to give you your shares. I wouldn't wait very much longer with Fidelity. I think that's one of the companies that is upside down. I'm not ham. Would I buy 100 GDC or 300 finger? You can do both. I think Ham would buy finger. I can't speak for him, but I think he'd buy finger because that's what he did. He sold his GDC at, I think he said 5 something, and he bought finger. But he also bought that other thing, MLSS. For what it's worth, Pete, if you're asking me, and I know you're not, but because GDC is down $1.15, and when I looked at the chart earlier, it hasn't broken down. I mean, it's more speculative. GDC has no fundamentals at all. And at $6, there's a long way to fall. But I don't know, I can't give you advice. I don't know the purpose of your investment, or your ability to handle a loss. But if I suddenly had that choice, I'd buy 100 GDC. If it were a binary choice, or I'd buy half and half, you know. But I think I'd buy 100 GDC. But it's risky, you know. Maybe the whole movement in GDC was last week when it did 110 million shares. Maybe that's it. But the chart to me looks like there's more to come. So my thinking, Pete, would be, all right, I'm going to gamble because that's what it is. I'm going to gamble. I'm going to do that one. If that goes, your wife, is she a goer? Say no more, nods as good as a wink. Well, yes, she goes. Say no more, squire. Say no more, squire. Candid photography. Anyway, if that were to go, and you say 100, I don't know. I'd pick a number, and I wouldn't try to get the top, but I'd pick a number. And so right now, you say you can buy 300 shares of Finger, but it'd be a gamble. I would buy 100 of the first, and then my goal would be, let's say Finger goes to 3 while you wait. Who knows? Just to use an assumption. So maybe on 100, I'm totally making it up. What if on 100 it went to I'm making it up, $30. And in the meantime, Finger drifted up to 3. Well, then you sell that, and instead of buying 300 Finger, you buy 1,000 Finger, right? But the risk is that it doesn't go up, and then Finger goes. I mean, there's risk. You might miss out. That's the way I would do it. I think I'd buy 100 of the first. I wouldn't wait forever. I don't think I'd wait beyond 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But the risk you do by doing it that way is, I think with Finger, nobody believes me, but I think you're going to start hearing really good news on that contract that everybody makes fun of. I think there's a potential for an institutional support in the stock. There's a potential. I'm not promising it. And I think the company is going to go positive in earnings in the first part of next year. And as Ham said today, this monetization of the big data through the insurance companies is coming. I don't know when exactly, but I think it could be soon because they've been out there working on that for a while. And it's in the interviews. So I think Finger could have a nice move by year end without a squeeze. It could go to $3, $4, $5, $6, $7. But that's how I think I'd do it, Pete. I think Ham would just buy Finger. David says, Anna, thank you many times over for what you do and what you're going to do. Can a bee be said to half be or not be semi-carnally? That sounds familiar. I believe you agree with me, Justin. I believe you believe. When I get going, some of it's just frustration. It's not directed at you. Yeah, I think I just talked about Finger. MMTLP froze the shares, and we have never unfrozen them So it's debatable in law what is resolved. All SEC and FINRA approved. Frozen above 1,000, I might add. Frozen above 1,000? Well, I'm not saying that's not an argument that might prevail. I give it low odds. Um, I heard it's in the lawsuit, the waterway lawsuit, Panama Waterways. I can't remember the name of it, the company, but it's in there on page 7 in the footnotes that the stock traded at $2,400. But I just assume the other side's going to have arguments why it was kosher to unwind those trades. But yeah, I think you're right. But Frank, I don't think you miss out on that upside by moving from MMTLP to Nextbridge. I don't think you miss out. I think you still get that participation to the upside because it affected everybody and it affected the company too. So I think it's suicidal to stay in MMTLP. You're just asking to be screwed, in my opinion. Hey, Barbara. My broker's supposed to register me? I didn't say that. Uh, you're supposed to ask them. You're supposed to call your broker. In the fact sheet, it says that it's on us to call the brokerage firm. That's all because there aren't enough shares. Curious if you three. I think the U3 was an obscure ruling, and it was an obscure decision. FINRA got rid of the person who made that decision, I think, or she was made the scapegoat. I think they halted it on purpose, and they're going to do everything they can do that they never suffer that loss. Thank you, Heather. MLSS, Ellie Belly, MLSS. Yeah, that was right, I think. MLSS, $1. Let me see. That's right. Yeah, Milestone Scientific, MLSS. Milestone Scientific. And it's $1.05. $1.05, MLSS. It's like Merrill Lynch, Sam. All right. Yeah, there's a bear rate. I was thinking about it, Spiny, last night when I couldn't sleep. There was a lot of volume last week, and now there's no volume. We could be fooling ourselves. But I agree with your assessment. All right, let's see. Jack Hamilton. I transferred my IRA MMTLP to Nextbridge. Yay. I was shocked how uncomplicated it was. I called last year to move them over, and it was a complete circus. I wonder why they loosened the reins. Well, yeah, it got easier, didn't it? Because the first time I did it, it was work, and they wanted to charge a lot of money. It did get easier. I agree with you. I think it's a combination of the fact that Greg McCabe and the system would like to know how many shares are real and are on his books. And so maybe the transfer agent is cooperating more. I think also the spotlight that Anna and Sada and LT and Patrick and the Statue of Liberty and you know, Busy and Junk Savvy, this and so many more. The spotlight that they've put on this maybe got Wall Street into sending the shares, and I think there's still a lot of skepticism around the system, in plural, that there's even a problem. So they're just doing it. And so far, you'd be hard pressed to show that there's any kind of problem, as far as many of the broker dealers are concerned. But that's not true of TradeStation, is it? TradeStation ran into difficulty. I think they have a lot of confidence that once the shares are transferred, they're going to get away with not paying very much, if anything, to MMTLP. And I know, early on, I mean, right during it all, I really believed they were going to have to pay a large number. But I really think the system is corrupt from head to toe. And anyway, but you make a good observation. It's going to get more difficult once there are not any shares available. All right, so I'm going to finish off on silver. The pendulum. I feel like Donald Trump reading the snake. And whoever asks me up there, not that it's your business, I am voting for Donald Trump. All right, this is Mike Mahoney, and we'll see how far we get before you're bored. It's only a 4-page chapter, and it's called The Pendulum, said the snake. Throughout this book, I, Mike Mahoney, have been talking about cycles and the effect they have on the markets, the economy, and your investments. If you study long enough, I believe you'll come to the conclusion that just about everything happens in waves and cycles. Cycles are everywhere in nature. But as a product of human nature, financial and commodity markets also exhibit cyclical behavioral patterns. These periods of optimism and pessimism seem to rise and fall with predictable regularity, but the length of different cycles can span days, weeks, months, years, decades, and even centuries. Thus, planning for such events is difficult due to the absence of previous experience with such cycles. That's when I knew I didn't want to die. I just wanted to ride my motorcycle. This is one of the reasons that financial education is so important. Here are some common cycles. Over long periods of time, the market tends to run hot and cold. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to say that the price-to-earnings ratio is a measurement of how hot and how cold the market is. When stocks are experiencing bull markets, the market gets hot, everybody wants in, prices are high, and stocks become overvalued using price to earnings ratios. Look at Nvidia. In a bear market, when everything turns cold, everyone wants out, prices fall, and stocks become undervalued. Low P's. Look at Oxy Oil or Chevron. There is a cycle which measures the public's preference for intangible assets, meaning paper assets such as stocks, or tangible assets such as gold, real estate, commodities, or collectibles. Problem with real estate today is real estate a bond? Is real estate a financial instrument? Or is it real? You can have that a debate about that. Tangible assets also include commodities and collectibles. There's no better example of this than the Dow to gold ratio. The Dow to gold ratio. I hope he talks about it more. But the Dow to gold ratio is simply the points of the Dow divided by the price of the gold. And we did that before. The Dow today is 40,800. Gold is 2,546. Wow, 2,546. That's really something. That is really something. So the Dow is 40,800 divided by 2,056. So it's 20 to 1. The Dow to gold ratio is 20 to 1. So every point in the Dow can buy 20 ounces of gold. There's a real estate cycle, and you can do the same thing with home prices. I'm going to skip over that just to save time. My conclusion is that betting against these tidal forces of investment cycles is placing your capital at great risk, while betting with them is practically no bet at all. In fact, this is Mike Mahoney, I would say that investing with the financial currents can make even the uneducated investor look like a genius. Just look at how smart all the real estate flippers looked until the bubble burst. Let me show you just how powerful swimming with the tide can be. I'm going to use the Dow as a representation for blue chip stocks. Now let's make up two investors, Bob and Paul. Let's see how they do buying gold and buying the Dow. Both were born in 1903. These are some old folks. God, they're ancient. And both became investors the same year when their parents bought them each one share of the Dow. And the Dow bottomed out in 1903 for $30. You could have bought one share of the Dow for $30 in 1903. No, he doesn't say. I don't know if it's 1903. But anyway, for luck, the parents used a $20 and a $10 gold piece, 1.5 ounces of gold. By 1923, their conservative investment, so maybe it is by 19, whatever, it doesn't matter. They were given one share of the Dow at 30 points. By 1923, their conservative investment had tripled in price over the preceding 20 years, but then the stock market really took off. And by 1929, each share was worth more than 12 times what their parents paid. 12 times. That year, Bob met a beautiful blonde named Betty, and Paul met a plump little petunia named Patty, and both couples were married. Then in the summer of 1929, Bob and his blonde bride Betty were blessed with a beautiful bouncing baby boy named Bubba. Can we put any more B's in this sentence? While Paul and Patty produced a pretty little princess named Pamela who had to pee all the time. Anyway, Bob had been saving for a new car and was just shy of $495 by $100 it would take to buy a brand new Ford. But Bob was gripped in the euphoria of the stock market, so in the tradition of his father, and as a birthday gift to his new son, he took 18 ounces of gold, $380, and bought one share of the Dow at $380. But Paul was getting an uneasy feeling, figuring the market can't go up at this rate forever. So in the summer of 1929, he cashed out, receiving 18 ounces of gold, which he held in trust for Polythene Pam. Just a couple of months later, the Dow crashed, and 3 years after that, the Dow bottomed at 40 points, or 2 ounces of gold. Paul took the 18 ounces of gold he got from cashing out of the Dow in 1929 and bought 9 shares of the Dow for his daughter, Polythene Pam. Have you seen Polythene Pam? Pam's investment did very well over the next 3 decades, but in 1966 her father, Paul, now 63 and retired, telephoned her and shared a little secret with her. For many years he had been thinking about how lucky he had been to have an innate sense when stocks had been overvalued and undervalued. It fascinated him so much that he had been studying stock market valuation since he retired. He had stumbled on a great secret. Valuations seemed to swing back and forth like a great pendulum. The snake. He went on to explain to her what P/E ratios were, how stocks were extremely overvalued at the time. He also calculated that measured in terms of gold, the Dow was 1.5 times more overvalued than it was at the peak at which he had sold in 1929. Polythene Pam hung up the phone, called her broker, and sold her 9 shares of the Dow. The next day she bought gold and was delighted to find that she got 252 ounces of gold with the proceeds. In the late 1970s, gold began to rocket, and in January of 1980, gold was on the front page of every newspaper. Pam's father called again to tell her, just like the long lines in front of the coin shops, this mania people were feeling could not last. It reminded him of the frenzy in 1929 for stocks. He also said PEs of stocks were at the lowest that they had been since 1932. and that stocks were extremely overvalued. The very next day, gold hit 850. Pamela called her broker, told him to sell her gold and buy the Dow with the proceeds. Later that day, her broker called her back, and the news he had to give her absolutely amazed them both. Gold had hit 850, and the Dow was 850 points on the same day, so her 252 ounces of gold bought her 252 shares of the Dow. Paul died in 1990. He was 87. Pam thought of her father and the lessons he had taught her. In 1999, when she was out of her mind, when her gardener told her that she should invest in .com and tech stocks, she got an uneasy feeling. So this is what my father must have felt, she thought. So she looked up the PE and found that the Dow's PE was 30% higher than the stock market peak before the crash of 1929. Next, she divided the points of the Dow by the price of gold and found out that in terms of gold, stocks were almost 2.5 times more overvalued than they were before the crash. She went to her computer, logged into her brokerage account, sold the Dow, and a few days later, she bought 11,088 ounces of gold. In March of 2008, Pam got a call from an old family friend, Bubba. Bubba's father, Bob, had died. He had lived to the incredible age of 105. Bubba shared that long ago Bob had passed along to him some financial wisdom that he had taken to heart. Live below your means, get out of debt, save money, and invest for the long term. He also shared how well he had done. He bragged that his share of the Dow, which his father had purchased for him in 1929, was now worth $12,000, and that his father had left his sister a share that his grandfather had only paid $30 for in 1903. Polythene Pam didn't say anything. She already knew what her grandfather's $30 investment was worth, because the math was easy. She had 11,088 ounces of gold, and gold had just hit $1,000 per ounce. Polythene Pam was worth over $11 million. She realized there had been a long silence on the phone and said, $12,000? That's great, Bubba. So the sister was Polythene Pam, and Polythene Pam climbed in through the bathroom window. So after the phone call, Pam did some math. She calculated Bubba's gains. The share his grandfather had purchased for $30 had gained 39,900% in price, and the share his father had paid $380 for had a gain of 3,058. But it was when she assessed the value in terms of gold that she could see things clearly. Bob had paid 18 ounces of gold for that one share of the Dow he bought for Bubba in 1929. But now that one share was only worth 12 ounces. Bubba had invested in the Dow for his entire life, and after 79 years, the Dow had lost 33% of its value. Pam already knew that the 1.5 ounces of gold her grandfather had invested turned into 11,000 ounces. But it was when she did the math that she finally understood the immense power of the knowledge her father had passed down to her. The increase from 1.5 ounces of gold to 11,088 ounces of gold was a 739,100% gain in absolute value. she was absolutely flabbergasted to find that because of her father's instincts and later the wisdom he had gained from studying the past, her grandfather's $30 investment had returned price gains of almost 37 million%. That was a fun story, and I'm sure you got confused. We can go over it later. But here is the best part. You don't have to wait 100 years for massive wealth to be transferred toward you. History shows that the greatest wealth is created in the shortest period of time. During the portion of the cycle where commodities are outperforming paper assets and when the precious metals are revaluing themselves. In this example, the first time Paul and his descendants were invested in stocks, Paul is as to Pam, as Bubba is as to Bob. Paul and his descendants were invested in stocks. They had to wait 26 years before the peak of the cycle. The second time, it took 34 years. The third time was 20 years. But the time invested in gold was just 3 years the first time, 14 years the second time, and the last time, as this book was written, was 8 years. Generally, the Dow is undervalued in terms of gold when it costs less than 4 ounces of gold. I don't know when the last time that happened. Generally, the Dow is undervalued in terms of gold when it costs less than 4 ounces of gold. The Dow is fairly valued at about 6 or 7 ounces of gold, and the Dow is overvalued when it costs more than 10 ounces of gold. And right now it's 20 ounces of gold to buy the Dow. But as we talked in the last chapter, when there's something way out of whack to one side, it usually overcorrects itself before it reverts to the mean. It's like a bouncing ball, you know. It bounces, then it comes back down. And everything always reverts to the mean. In 1929, the Dow was overvalued at 18 ounces of gold per share of the Dow. Well, it's 19.8 ounces now. And when it reverted to the mean, the pendulum overshot to 2 ounces. 2 ounces. So right now, the Dow costs 20 ounces of gold to buy 1 share. And if the pendulum swings back, it could overshoot again to where you could buy 1 share of the Dow for 2 ounces of gold. To say it differently, now might be the time to own gold. And I'm not saying you have to do it tomorrow. I think we'll have time. In 1966, the ratio was extremely overvalued at 28 ounces of gold per share. And in 1980, the pendulum overcorrected to a ratio of just 1 ounce of gold per 1 share of the Dow. Given the conditions in 2008, Mahoney was confident that the Dow-gold ratio will at least overshoot to 2, but it wouldn't surprise me in the least to see the Dow come off of its way overvalued peak in 1999 of 44 ounces of gold per 1 share of the Dow. That was 1999. Are you out of your mind? And overshoot to just 1/2 an ounce of gold per Dow share or less. So right now, when this is 2008, the Dow gold ratio is at 14. So that means every ounce of gold I have today will probably buy me 28 times more blue chip stocks sometime in the future. So we could look at it here. Someday in the future, 1 ounce of gold will buy 40 times more Dow than it does right now. 40 times. So it's the pendulum. The pendulum of the paper assets of the Dow, way up in value. When it comes back swinging, it won't come into the mean value. It'll go to the other side by an extreme. And gold, by contrast, when valued against the Dow, will be dear. There are, of course, many more examples of economic cycles I could give you, but suffice it to say cycles exist, and an awareness of their existence and knowledge of how they work will greatly aid you in maximizing your investments. As I said at the beginning of the book, quote, "These cycles which ebb and flow throughout history are as natural as the coming of the tides. And while betting against them may be hazardous to your financial health, investing with them can bring you great wealth," unquote. So, I say you should swim with the tide. And right now, the tide is flowing in the direction of commodities. He was off. He was off by 16 years. But that's our good luck. That's our good fortune. Right now, the tide is flowing in the direction of commodities, especially gold and silver. All right, next time you tune in, we'll talk about gold and silver versus real estate. Breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. But I'll do it. And then after we do that, we'll go through how to invest in precious metals. And after that, we'll figure out how to solve a problem like Maria. Let's see what the stocks are doing, if anything. MLSS is now 105, belly belly. 106, up from 105. Logic's 3 cents. Let's see. Yeah, it's a huge spread though, but it is 3 cents. Finger is 210, basically. And the other one is still down over $1. And everybody out there, I'm going to try, because Jennifer was right, I'm going to try to be calmer when talking to shills, and I think this looks like one. Looks like because your MMTLP is now with Nextbridge, they can say it's sorted and there's no problem. Yeah, they can. They can. And I'd rather be there, Frank, I'd rather be there than paying for lawyers trying to prove that I deserve those shares when there are no shares left. Right now the shares are left there, but when they're gone, I won't have the money to hire an attorney to go after it. It would probably cost minimum 50 grand to go after my shares. Minimum. It could be 150. It won't make any sense. But There's only three things, Frank. When you boil it down, it's only three things. Wall Street owes me Nextbridge shares 1-for-1 for MMTLP. I got that. And they solved it. They sorted it. Absolutely. I had to do some work, but I got it. I didn't have to pay for lawyers. I didn't have to write letters. And it's done. And bravo. That was the deal. That's what MMTLP was. Good on them. Now, I think they're going to have a problem here after 165 million shares are spoken for. Personally, I think there's 1 billion more out there. But the longer you wait to move, the more you're going to experience the panic as 1 billion shares try to find their way into what remains of 165 million. But yeah, bravo. They don't owe me those shares. That's okay with me. That's fine. Absolutely fine. In fact, I'm excited to be in those shares. I think my 4,000 shares could someday be worth 400,000, $1 million. So I'm really happy that I got those shares. And I'm glad I'm not sitting like a sucker waiting for some they to pay for some lawyers I don't know who are on a ill-formed argument that another they is going to pay me money that's going to be equal to what I own in Nextbridge. So I'm very happy with that. Now, the second thing is they owe you 2 days of trading, or the value, the opportunity cost of not having those 2 days of trading. Well, that's a legal argument that you're going to have to go into court, prove what happened. You're going to have to prove your losses. You're going to have to prove that you could have sold at a higher price. The judge is going to be skeptical. She's not going to understand anything about short selling because she understands the law. She doesn't understand trading in the market. And so that you have that argument. But who's going to pay for the lawyers? Are you, Frank? I don't think so. I'm not. I don't even think if our community came together, we could put together enough money. But luckily, there are some lawyers out there. There is some momentum. And there's a lot of people working for free. A lot of people to try to get this value ascertained, this harm ascertained, and to try to get a resolution of that. But Frank, by your question, you seem to be implying that the smartest thing would be to sit like a sucker and do nothing and count on this. Well, then you're just playing victim. And I don't know. It's not like I've lived my life the best. I've tried to. But I'm not going to sit here and recommend, Frank, that you play victim. I'm telling you to go get the value that is there in Nextbridge. The third item of reward potentially is pain and suffering, penalties, pain and suffering. Again, these two have to be argued in court. It'll take time. Things have to be entered into evidence. The other side is practiced at the art of deception and well paid to do so. So good luck. Good luck. When it comes to coming up after the 165 million shares are fully allocated, the billion shares left of MMTLP are going to be sitting there saying, wait a minute, I can't transfer anymore? No, you can't. You had 2 years in which to do it, and you never did, but you can't anymore. Well, wait a minute, I want to get my value. What's the value of MMTLP? Well, Frank, What's the value of MMTLP? MMTLP has expired. They have no assets. They have no management. So what is MMTLP? MMTLP is an accounting placeholder. That's all it is. It's a representation of what your broker-dealer owes you, maybe. It's just a placeholder. Now, if Greg McCabe were silly enough to start trading Nextbridge, these placeholders would get moved over and they would drown the value of the newly traded Nextbridge. They then would change these accounting placeholders into Nextbridge IOUs. That's what the criminals are hoping for, and it's not going to happen. I don't think. What is that accounting placeholder worth? To use your word, I don't know if it's your word, somebody else's. These are the words you'll hear on Twitter. Resolve, settle. And you don't, and the double D's tell you, you don't have to do anything. You're entitled. That's the other word you hear. You hear entitled all the time. What's all this worth? This is just words. These are words they give you so that they can get a kickback once, I'm not a lawyer, but in my judgment, there's a time period to make these claims and it's going to expire. They'll get a kickback with these lies: resolve, settle, entitled. You're not entitled to jack, because you, Frank, can, even as I'm speaking to you on the 667th day, you can transfer your shares to Nextbridge. And then the argument is, what the hell? Why wouldn't you? Because I want to stay there. They owe me something. What do they owe you? What do they owe you? You think we're in the principal's office? This is Wall Street, boy. They're already arguing. They're already arguing that you deserve nothing. So they already are arguing, Frank, that you knew when you bought MMTLP. This is a specious argument, but lawyers are liars. They're arguing that you knew par value of MMTLP was 0.001. That's what's on everything. But they're arguing you knew it was worthless. They're arguing that you are a speculator, so you don't deserve anything. They're arguing that you couldn't have sold on Friday the 9th or Monday the 12th anyway, because the MMTLP expired on the 13th, and T plus 3, you wouldn't have gotten it. That is a lie, because you could short settle those trades. But they're already trying to convince the courts and elsewhere that you deserve 0 for your MMTLP. I don't think they're going to win on that one. I don't think they're going to win on that one. Then they're arguing that all you deserve is $290, which is the closing price. That was fake, but that they argue it's $290. They've already started arguing that. They will argue that you deserve approximately $2, whatever those deals were done for the Louisiana projects with, I think, John Berta. My calculation was $2 to $4, but it was nearly impossible to calculate that because there's a residual in each transaction that you'll only know the value after other people's money drills the wells. So I don't think this is going to win. This might. I don't think this is going to win because the good guys will argue that the value was much higher than that. But anyway, they're going to try to argue that. Up here with the 0, I left out, I still don't know what OG means. But they're going to argue up here at 0 that only whatever OG means, torchlight holders, deserve it, nobody else. I don't think that's going to win. This might win. I don't think this is going to win. Now, the other argument that I used to give, and I'll just short circuit it, I figured they needed to settle on a non-diluted basis, and I came up with a number over $1,000 a share. I still believe that is a fair calculation based on what I believe is in the ground and what the company could have drilled had this not happened. They could be ahead of schedule. But it assumes non-dilution, and it assumes that we deserve that value. But as time has gone by, I think it gets harder and harder to cram this value into a 2-year delay. But I don't know. If I were the lawyer on the good guys, I'd be going with this. But I'm concerned that there's going to be an offering maybe at $12. It could be less. That's the number I think they'll use, Frank, to do some sort of resolution or settlement on MMTLP, is the Roth Capital. Because they'll argue, look, they raised $400 million at dollars worth at that price, 40 million shares at that price. So obviously the transfer of MMTLP into Nextbridge should have happened almost 2 years earlier. So how can the price be higher? I think that argument is going to be hard to get beyond. I really do. I can't talk to you about pain and suffering. I can't tell you about the success of arguing that the short squeeze was there. They're going to have discovery. They're going to have to find those trades if they haven't been destroyed. And then you're going to have trial by jury and see what happens. Yeah. It's going to be Sinner. I'm not going to watch it. Sinner's going to win. Um, I like him all right, but I wish Djokovic had gotten through. Um, um, uh, so I think Sinner is. I think Sinner is going to win. I think Djokovic would have won the whole thing if he had made it through Popyrin, but Popyrin is tough. So, I think MMTLP is dead per se, but I think Nextbridge is very valuable. And yeah, I think I need, as people ask me, I think I really have to be insistent that people move from from MMTLP to Nextbridge. And I think I have ground to cover because for the first few months, I really believed that the settlement price was going to be potentially huge. Now, to be clear, I didn't convince or talk to anybody to buy the stock. It was all after the stock stopped trading. But I think people have to move their shares from MMTLP to Nextbridge. And if they're waiting around because they think there's going to be some huge settlement for MMTLP that somehow isn't going to be given to Nextbridge as well, they're really listening to the wrong people. So that's why. I don't think it'll be a great match. I think it'll be 6-2, 6-3, 6-2. I don't think it'll be a great match at all. Sinner will beat Draper on Friday. I think Tiafo Fritz might be a fun match to watch. Tiafo Fritz. And I like Big Foe. I don't know if he can beat Fritz, though. I don't know if he can beat Fritz. But I would root for Tiafo to beat Fritz on Friday. But then Sinner will beat either Fritz or Tiafo. Sinner will beat either one. So, and I don't think it'll be close. It'll be a 2-hour match and it's over with. I don't think it'll be great. If I were involved in trading of MMTLP, I would be a worried man. In other words, you're saying I don't know what you mean. If you're one of the ones that halted the trading, yeah, maybe you might have a point. Oh, gee, our Torchlight holders who receive dividends. Yeah, I was a Torchlight holder. Original Gangsters. Now I know. Original Gangsters. Okay. Jack Harding becomes the CEO of University Land. I don't know why that's frightening. I have no context for why that would be frightening. I think, Deacon, their leases are contractual. So as long as they drill 5 wells and complete them, all they have to do is pay what's ever in the renewal part of the lease contract. MMTLP, in my view, is a crime, and it can be proven. SEC has to be held to account for it. Who's going to do it, Frank? Are you going to hold it to account? Do you have the money? I mean, we're doing it. You're talking to somebody who agrees with you. I think we should fight it, but we need a miracle in terms of somebody paying probably. I would guess it will end up costing $10 to $20 million to prosecute this against the SEC and FINRA and the rest. I don't know what crime can be proven. FINRA was in their rights to halt trading. I think it was a crime, but they're the ones that oversee it. They're immune. I don't know. I think it's a tough case. But Frank, hey, if you want to hang on to your MMTLP and thereby hold the SEC accountable by holding a worthless chit, go ahead. And I'm going to fight as much as I can. I have already. I'll keep doing it. But I think in terms, Frank, if you're serious about your account and the value of your account, the thing you can do instead of being a victim is move your MMTLP to Nextbridge. You'll still benefit. You can still fight, and you'll still benefit if a crime is proven from whatever is offered. You don't have to. If somebody, I don't know, robs you and you know a crime's committed, you don't have to stand in the exact same spot for the next 2 years so you keep getting robbed. You can pull away from that spot, never enter it again, and get to work somewhere else. What happened. If it's proven, you'll get your reward. And reconcile. That's the other one. Reconcile. Yeah, D. Quateau. What I notice with all these stocks is they get some momentum going. They bring some people on the board, and people get all going, hey, look at this, DBM, it's got to be the squeeze. It's got to be the squeeze. And the stock goes up, and then, like clockwork, the criminals just start selling the stock. And they make a massive amount. There's 30 million shares today. The stock was closed at 3 cents. It's 2 cents now. So it was less than that, 0.2 of a cent. So, I mean, it's $30,000 they made today. Pretty good for just a guy with no money sitting on his sculpted rear end because he goes to the gym all the time. Just selling stock he doesn't own. Anyway, that's what I think happens. They try to get people to put new money running it up, get excitement in, and then they just fleece it. But it also, I don't know. I just think DBMM, I like the CEO. I've listened to the presentation. But if you listen to it, it's very similar to so many you hear. It's nothing particularly unique. No barrier of entry. And I think it's nearly seller boxed. So you got to ask yourself, do you trust your broker or do you trust Nextbridge Hydrocarbons? Well, do you, punk? MMTLP is not playing victim. It is a victim. This is a crime with many victims. I didn't say MMTLP is playing victim. MMTLP doesn't exist. But I think you can play victim, Frank. I can. I was pissed off. But I'm just telling you, Frank, my opinion. You can do what you want. But if I still had MMTLP, I would have a sinking feeling in my gut that I couldn't get over. Because I would know that I put up that money and I'm never going to see it. Or it's going to be so long for now, it doesn't have any meaningful effect in my life. If you get money back in 10 years, you've already picked yourself up, gotten on with life, and it'll be a bonus. It won't be critical to your life at that time. People who hold on to MMTLP are playing the victim. Because people who hold MMTLP right now can reconcile, they can resolve, they can settle their own situation. Because all Wall Street owes you, it's in the document, it's in the filing that was the basis of buying MMTLP. All Wall Street owes you is 1 share of Nextbridge for 1 share of MMTLP. You can go get it. Right now, you can go get it. Why not do that? No, I'd rather just sit here. There was a crime committed and they have to pay. Go get your shares. Now, I personally agree with you that the 2 days of trading and the notice and all of that was a crime. The 2 days of trading should have been allowed to occur. But I also know, Frank, that the Wall Street seems to have a whole lot, the House has a whole lot of powers. And they halted trading. And it's been almost 2 years. Anyway, Frank, I agree with Stoney. It's boring going over the same thing again. But if you're still holding MMTLP, Frank, you are playing victim instead of taking charge of your own financial house. That's my opinion. That's true. The brokers are responsible to provide the same value that every Nextbridge share receives at AST. That's true. I agree with that. But that is what will be debated in court. What is that value? At what time? Is that on the 13th or the 14th when it was on the Wednesday when it was settlement? Is that the value? So do you use 290? Or is it, and unfortunately, Deacon, I can't convince myself, and please convince me that I'm wrong. But I think now that almost 2 years are gone by, if Roth Capital raises this money, I don't know, at $8, that'll be the number, I think. The other side will argue, well, Your Honor, they raised $400 million or $360 million, and then they drilled, and sophisticated investors, even though it's all manipulated and it's probably the shorts, but sophisticated investors put up money. They judged the value at $8. And the lawyers might even argue, well, that's $8. That's after they got it to 100%. The ownership was 72%. So we've got to reduce that $8 down to, $6.50. I don't know, whatever it is. So I agree with you, though. They have to give the same value. They probably have to give pain and suffering. They probably have to pay the legal fees too if they're in the wrong. So it's either, what is that number? And that's going to be the debate. I don't think the judge will go any higher than what Roth Capital raises money for. That's just my opinion. And that probably makes me a wet blanket, but that's what I think. And that's why I keep telling people, please move your shares from MMTLP to Nextbridge. I think one distribution in the future, 1 year's worth of distributions in the future, could be $8 if everything works out. That's not a promise, that's a prediction. Yes, MMTLP. Deleted is the word. I think I said expired. You're right, deleted. Did I miss any information? Yes. One of them is going to go up 10 times tomorrow. I don't know. I'm making it up. Martin Shen could at least tell us his goal for Finger in terms of stock price and market cap. No, he can't. He can't. If you're interested, you can go to YouTube. I did 2 interviews with him, one in Atlantic City, one, maybe 3. You could find me. But you don't have to go to mine. You can go, he's done interviews with 2 other IR types, investment relations types. And he gave his targets of what he thinks the company can be conceptually. But he would get charged by the SEC if he gave specific stock prices and market caps. He can't do that. But Old Mold, I don't really think you're an investor. So I would spend some time with you going through FingerMotion, but I don't really believe you're an investor in FingerMotion. So I'm going to save myself the effort. I think it can be a double, triple, quadruple from here with any kind of strong fundamental news by the end of the year. I think in January, February, March, or April, May, June. Well, actually, their year ends in February, so I'll say December, January, February, March, April, May, one of those 2 quarters. I think you might find that FingerMotion goes positive in its earnings, and to the extent that the guidance that's provided at that time means that earnings will be repeatable, predictable, and growing, you could have a whole different price in the stock. But for now, I don't know if it should be $2 right now, $5 right now, but in this range, maybe it's pretty reasonable until we get some more clarity on the news. But the more news comes out, more clarity, the more the stock price goes up. And Old Mold, I know you'd like to be a downer. That's fine. There's places in this world for cockroaches and rats and mosquitoes and scum. There's places. I don't know why God created all those things, but they have a role. So it's fine. You can be your wet blanket all you want. But it doesn't matter what you think. It really doesn't. the company has the potential to be a juggernaut in earnings. And at that point, it won't matter what your sourpuss opinion is. Well, I think the shares did reach, I think they reached 2,400, and I heard higher numbers too. And for me, Frank, I've been corrected by other people, but in my experience, I have never seen a trade executed, money entered into the account, and then it's taken away without consequences. I've never seen that. The trade was executed. So I think that might be fertile grounds for reward. But Frank, I don't know. I don't know your last name. I don't know if you own the stock. But there's an arbitration clause that each of us signed. So this may have to go before arbiters. Drunk, doddering, collecting a stipend to sit there and listen, paid for by the brokerage industry. It may go before FINRA, which is a private company that has immunity. It may go before SEC, who will have a new chairman, and Congress that doesn't care. I don't know. I don't know where you're going to get. I don't know where you're going to get this big payout from. It would have to be a crusading attorney who expects to become a multi-billionaire by the settlement, because it's going to take a long time. It's going to drive him crazy or her crazy. But anyway, Frank, please, if you believe the best thing to do is to hold on to MMTLP because that's your best way out to make money, I mean, you're totally free to do it. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me. The criminals sell stock that doesn't exist, and they do it constantly. So you have to go back and listen to him on it. I'll never see my financial dreams through because of GTII and Finger. It's been long enough for a squeeze to happen, sigh. I call BS. I think you're a liar, and your financial dreams are satisfied each day by selling stock that doesn't exist. But if you're expecting a squeeze in GTII, it's not happening, pal. It's not happening. It could happen if the setup is just perfect coming out of receivership. But if you're counting on that, I can't help you. In terms of FingerMotion, I believe there's all the reasons to buy FingerMotion just on fundamentals. Apparently, if you listen to him, there's could be institutional backing for the company soon. There's this contract for the emergency vehicles. I don't think that's what it's called. First responding vehicles. I think it's big. You don't, because you're a whiner and a complainer. But as that becomes valuable, I think the stock price is going to lift. The Pacific Re and Munich Re have been out there now for 2-3 years. In interviews, in press releases, they've talked about how they've moved their laboratories and scientists into the second phase, with the next being monetization. It's going to be huge. But you don't believe in it, that's fine. Keep whining and complaining and sighing. But please, old moan, if you need to sigh, go sigh somewhere else. Okay, I think we're almost done for today. Deacon Blues. They call me Deacon Blues. For some reason, you think my shares are not with Nextbridge. They are. I'm discussing the setup, that's all. Okay. Then I wasted my time. Congratulations. You did the right thing, getting your shares to Nextbridge. Bravo. And now going back and forth over it's not new information. She slept with her boss, and it broke my heart. I didn't trust her anymore. She slept with her boss. It broke my heart. I didn't trust her anymore. She slept with her boss. What, I'm going to do it for 2 years? 3 years? 5 years? I mean, I'm capable of that. Hanging on to something like that for a long time. But probably the best thing, slowly get out there and create a new situation. So great, Frank. Thank you for bringing your thoughts about MMTLP. Thank you. Congratulations on moving your shares to Nextbridge. I happen to agree with you that, Deacon. It might happen sooner than all 105. But I would say it would have to be pushing 80% of that 105. I don't know. It's going to have to be a big block of that 105. Of course, you know, probably the top 10 or 15 brokers, it's the most shares. But yeah, I agree with you on that. Logic is up today. Thank you, Kenneth. Logic's up. I think we're just getting closer and closer to those 6 or 7 deals being announced. I hope they're all announced at the same time, and it all divides into approximately 2 billion shares. And then I think you're looking at 50 cents a share, give or take. And that's a $25 stock on the New York, I hope, with excellent revenues and prospects and institutional backing. It could be very exciting. And I think the time frame is sort of now, because it's getting close where they're going to have to fund, and they it already may be too late. They're going to have to fund their financial filing by raising more money, and I'm pretty sure they want to get to the point where they have a big asset base so they can raise money at a substantial value. All right, let's just look. They don't move all in unison. I think, Lee, gold will move first, but silver will have this huge move at some point. But silver, they also will be volatile. I think gold's going to go up now and silver's going to go up now. But I also think, and I also believe the stock market is going to race to all-time highs, even though all the news is negative. Bull markets climb a wall of worry. That's the old expression. But then, after Kamala is president, and after she's sworn in, and she puts a bunch of goofballs, look at her first appointment, a complete oddball. Imagine her choices for Treasury Secretary. It's probably Gensler. But imagine her choice for Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State. Going to be it's going to be comedy. And you could see a crash next year that's unbelievable. During that crash, all these metals will come back down. Nothing goes straight up. So anyway, my point is, you don't have to panic all in now. But I believe, and John would point out to you that platinum is cheap. Copper, for example, I thought would go up. I don't know if it's going to. And copper could have a collapse. China is weird. Their bonds are down to 2.5%. There's concern their real estate sector is imploding. There's even concern that their industrial might is in trouble. But then, I don't know, I don't trust the information I'm getting out of China. But I think China's in a good position to thrive. But some of if China's in trouble, some of the industrial metals won't have the rallies they could have. Let's just see if there's any news. No news, not yet anyway, on Logic. No news on that one. Nothing on Finger. Let's look at MLSS. Nothing there. Anyway, I don't see any late night news. But Lee, they don't all move at the same time. Kamala's not doing as well as the mainstream. Yeah, I agree with that, but the mainstream media, I think, is running interference for all the blues, because you don't need, all you need is the people that watch MSNBC or CNN to go, oh, well, that makes sense. That result makes sense. I think the preparation in about 6 cities has gone on for 4 years, and I think they're ready. All right, I'm just going to look at these aftermarket prices and then sign off. Nothing exciting. Nothing exciting. Logic did close at 3 cents. That's interesting. Not a lot of shares, though. So anyway, everybody, thank you for signing in. Thank you for listening to Ham. And Frank, congratulations for moving your shares to Nextbridge. And I agree with Spiny. It's a pretty boring subject at this point. But I'll keep talking about it because I really think there's value in getting people to move, just to help Greg McCabe know his clientele. So anyway, very few of you left. Thanks for sticking it out, and I'm going to sign off. Cheers.